This episode of Mod Rules brought to you by seasonal allergies. Seasonal allergies fucking suck. And they suck so hard I can't even talk right. I can't talk good no more.
Speak correctly.
Speak correctly. John, this is joined by always as
Danny.
I'm Danny.
Oh, and Dave. Sorry, I don't know.
Sure.
I didn't know.
Sure.
Dave got mixed up. He thought it was me for a
I want to
second.
say thank God for wind guards on microphones because I just opened this beer can right over the windsock over the microphone. That's what it is. It's a beer guard. That's smart. About it.
Welcome to Mobtoberfest.
Yeah, Mobtoberfest. As we sit in my dining room at Mob Rule Studio B, in ridiculous heat for Alaska.
It's like 60 degrees, people.
Hope you people understand the pain we are going through right now because we had to close the door, which just allowed it to heat up immediately.
Fucking melting already.
Yeah, and we can still hear the planes overhead.
Mob Rule Studio B.
Yeah, so
under the airport.
It's about 75 degrees, 75 degrees Fahrenheit right now.
Located 5 minutes from your airport.
For our heathen rest of the world people who don't follow the Fahrenheit scale, think of that as a percentage of that's too fucking hot.
Yep.
So it's like 75% too hot, which is quite a lot.
It's supposed to get really hot this weekend, actually. I heard
I'm
85 degrees.
I'm super excited that I have to work in an air-conditioned building while, Danny, sir, you are going to be going into a game room without air conditioning to play against 20 other people.
And, yeah, as somebody who is very overweight, it'll be even better because I'm wearing an insulating suit of blubber. It works really great in the wintertime, but, man, in the summer, when it never gets this hot. But
what you need to do, Danny, is go out and get yourself one of those Gold Gyms sweatsuits that are plastic vinyl, and put it on and just wear that the whole time.
No,
where seals at the wrist,
so I can collapse during the tournament.
A sauna suit. By the end of the day, you're going to be like half your body weight.
Have you ever seen that scene from Austin Powers where Fat Bastard loses a lot of weight really fast?
Isn't it in a sauna he gets stuck in?
No, I thought it was because he got a lap band surgery or whatever, gastric bypass.
Yeah, it wasn't cool back then. I don't know.
Maybe back then it wasn't medically necessary. It was just funny.
Ugh, gross.
But good times. Before we touch on our main topic today, which is Getting Good, a practical guide, which we're all very excited about.
Yeah.
Super.
We're going to touch a little bit about what we've been up to. If I could speak for Dave, nothing. I... Very similarly, not a huge amount. I'm after all my Death Guardy things, I've just spent a couple hours watching video for a like Lovecraftian detective game, and now I want to play Gene Stealer Cult like really bad. But I won't because
don't do that.
That's too many armies. My Tyranids are nicely boxed right now.
Listen, if Rickards can't make Tyranids and Gene Stealers win every tournament, then you definitely will not.
Man, he's lost all his skills. He needs to get back in the gym and work out a little bit, I think.
Yeah, flex that dice arm a little more.
Yep.
A little less memes, a little more rolling.
Word.
But yeah, so I've done that. I continue to listen to Solar War, having great fun with the Assault on Uranus. Continues to get more intense as you get
the war in Uranus.
as you get deeper in to the Solar War.
Man. Oh, okay.
I was suffering a war in my Uranus last night.
Yeah.
That doesn't work if you use the word "my" in front of it. Yeah.
Dave, Jesus Christ.
Dave's. I had a war in my penis.
What?
I don't know.
All right.
But yeah, aside from that,
Turn up your hearing aids.
Yeah.
I finalized my list for the Midnight Sun GT. Bought my ticket for that, so that's coming up for all of us July 21st.
Still time to get plane tickets and get up here.
Get on up here, get your easy first round victory against me, and then kind of move on.
Is that really going to happen? Because I thought we were playing each other.
I mean, at some point we probably will. I'm going to guess around 5 if I'm being really insulting to us both.
So the Red Lantern challenge.
Well, maybe not after today.
It's self-depreciating humor, but there's a reason why we decided to make Danny tell us how to get good today. So yeah, I got my tickets for that. I got my list kind of set out. We had a really fun impromptu list idea generation session at a party we were at on Saturday, which
I think you mean our team training session.
Oh yeah,
it was legit. It was like all members of our competitive team drinking in our friend's house,
and some of their spouses,
and
then we made Taylor do some tricks on.
First off, we didn't make him do the first one. That was something he just was like, I got this. Whoop. And we were just like, well, if you're going to do stupid human tricks.
Just to translate, if you don't have video right now, seeing as I'm not making a video, by whoop, Dave means he dabbed face first down a homemade kid slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what
he dabbed the whole way
I don't know
down.
if it was homemade, but it was definitely rickety. Let's put it that way.
It was in the house beside our friend's house. So I think it was
trespassing.
Yeah, trespassing.
Nah, because there's nobody living in the big house.
Well,
sure, because it makes it not a crime.
Yeah.
What he said is that he was dabbing on the house itself.
Oh,
it's like, oh, you're empty. Here you go, bitch. Boom.
Ownership now.
Show you.
I've never felt so old and so what the hell is a dab as watching a grown man go down a slide the size of him while moving his arms in an awkward way. Sometimes
100% worth it.
From when I posted that on the internet, I got a lot of positive response. So
yeah, I kind of, when I recorded it, I posted it to our chat and got a lot of positive response. So I'm glad you could take it and get even more internet karma.
Thanks for taking the video.
Thanks, Gallo Boob.
I wish that we were able to record him on the swing, which was the next activity.
If I'd had any forethought, I would not have immediately been posting the video when he got on the swing, because that tink will.
So for reference, the swing set was made from like
ratchet straps.
Yeah, from a truck.
Yeah, that
were tied to a swing seat, I guess.
Yep,
whatever that's called. And Taylor was too big for that particular piece of equipment.
It's crazy that a grown man is too big for a child's playground equipment, homemade from straps.
What kind of world do we live in?
What kind of world do we live in? What kind of ableist world do we live in where it's not made to sustain the weight of a grown man?
What can I say? We work hard and we play hard at our training sessions.
We do.
That's how we get good.
And like literally, as I was walking out the door, I say to Danny, I'm like, "Hey, Danny," I was like, "I'm gonna run a list. I can fit." I think I said something like 120 Nurgling bases in 2,000 points, and I think your response was just "fuck you." No, and he's like, "It's not even good." And then I was like, "Fine, I can fit like 30 Nurgling bases and then 90 plague bearers." You're like, fuck you, no. It's better, but some guy's like, I'm going to put more Mortarion in there. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's no great. And you're like, wait a second. And then, like, you see his, like, little brain working into the Demon Codex and kind of, like, cross-referencing all the strats. And I accidentally stumbled onto a pretty good combo with Mortarion there.
Yeah, I think it could work.
If he survives turn 1. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't, then all my crap's in your deployment zone.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if we play round 1, he won't survive turn 1.
Ooh.
Because I'm bringing super repulsors.
They're like regular repulsors, but
super. Yeah.
Super.
Yeah. But 500 points apiece.
Instead of being lame, they're super lame.
We don't know.
Nobody knows.
Yeah. They're going to be somewhere between 285 and 500 is my guess.
I saw a really good meme on the repulsors where like it was Gulliman talking to Call, and Gulliman's like, "Did you finally get me my transport tank?" He's like, "You said you wanted more guns, right?" He's like, "No, I wanted a fucking tank that could hold people." He's like, "Well, I made you this with more guns." It's like, love me, father. Love me.
I'm just waiting for him to come up with like a double-decker repulsor, and that's the transport version. It's just 2 repulsors with less guns
just waiting
stacked on top of each
for
other.
like a Thunderstrike chainsword on the front of it, like from Imperial Knight. Close combat repulsor. That's obviously
just like
the next one.
Hovers around in a circle.
Just like a Roomba.
Oh, like Robot Wars. Like,
exactly.
It just spins around. Oh, good times.
It also has the secondary effect of making the Primaris inside dizzy, which they enjoy.
Yes.
It's very hard. Yeah.
But yes, after a little 5-minute session, I have a list that I can play hungover, slightly drunk, without much thought. which is, man, isn't that everyone's goal?
That's my
I
12.
think that's,
Just run up and touch stuff.
yeah, it's going
my
to
12
run up
model
and touch
Space
somebody.
Marine list coming out.
Ironically, everyone's going to run up and hug someone apart from the Beast of Nurgle, which is very...
Well, he's working on a side project.
Yeah, he's just
He's working on his master's degree.
Right.
just working on his math.
Guys, I don't have time for this fucking battle right now.
I don't have time to hug
Look at
anybody.
this goddamn objective. It's beautiful.
It's marking his territory over
Yes.
and over again.
Neat.
Yeah, so super good. So that's what Dave and I have been up to. Functionally nothing apart from
I
taking
mean, I
up.
did buy some paints.
Oh, what did? Oh, did you get the contrast
I
paints?
did buy the contrast
Oh,
paints.
tell us about
Tell
the
us about
contrast.
Well, I haven't been able to try
And
them out
you
yet.
said
because,
you've done nothing. You
Yeah.
bought things.
Did you taste them?
I did not taste them. I was waiting for the right opportunity to taste them, and it hasn't presented itself because instead of working 40 hours, I tried to cram 80 hours of work in a 40-hour work week, so it's fine, you know.
Yeah.
Why would
No,
you do that?
so our local retailer up here, because we're in Alaska, we can't ever ship spray paint at the same time.
Yeah.
So
saw
I
a
wanted to try them out.
Yeah.
So when they first came out, I wasn't able to get the spray cans. So I was like, well, just put these in my truck and call it a day, you know, and not worry about it for now. I do now have the spray can, but I haven't had any time to actually spray anything. So I haven't had any reason to actually open the contrast and taste it.
Sure.
I mean, apart from the fact of tasting it.
Yeah, you wanted to sample the flavor.
Well,
Yeah.
so I took a
Taste
bottle
the
of
fucking rainbow, Dave.
listen. I took a bottle of ultramarine.
Your shits are
blue.
going to be so deeply shaded and
Oh,
highlighted.
man, yeah, they're going to have excellent contrast.
I went to a fancy restaurant. with a
Single
bottle of
coat for each
blue
log.
and blue. Sat down at the table, proceeded to try to open it, and they looked at me like I was crazy and threw me out. So I mean, I just feel like contrast needs to be tasted in a rich setting. You know?
Hey, just for everyone listening, Dave, McDonald's is not a fancy restaurant.
It is to him.
And they don't appreciate it
And
when
like
you walk up to the
90% of our
drive-thru.
listeners. Do you mind if I taste this right here? I mean, it's your bottle. Do it, I guess.
Oh, the other thing that I was working on this week, taking some inspiration from some stuff I saw on Twitter, is I started designing my display board for Vegas. And I have
Oh.
lofty goals for this one here.
Oh, do I need to make a display board?
So my goal for my
Unless
display
you want
board
to win.
is I have I have the Frontline Gaming wooden tray, right? So my goal is it's going to fit in that tray. So, you know, for easy collapsibility. It's going to have kind of drilled out little slots for everyone. So if I'm moving, they don't fall out or shift around, and they're easy to keep a track of. Because, you know, if you see one space in your board, you know you're missing like a plague bearer or something like that. So that's my goal. My other goal is it's going to have like a step section. So the first half is going to be ground level, and then the next half or the back half will be higher up. I'm going to do a billboard on the back half. And on the back of that billboard is going to be like a hidden holder for Mortarion base. So you can kind of see him float above there. And then the back half is going to be split in half and held together with magnets. So it's easy to kind of take apart and magnetize. On one side of that back half, I'm going to make a little door on the edge.
Oh.
And in that door, dice and measuring tape and pencils are going to go.
Cool.
So like I said, I'm trying to get everything in one tray here.
That's lofty.
Pencils.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you want a pen, man.
No, man. No. So,
Can I tell you why? I have a good reason for
well,
this.
here's the thing, right? Well, when I go to my opponent and I'm like,
so they don't make fun of you?
did you score something that turn? Yeah, you got this objective, and then you circle it. You're like, oh, wait, no, you scored nothing. And then you just erase it while
That's why you
maintaining
never
eye
mark
contact.
down your
Why do you-
opponent's,
Why do you say it like that? I mean,
because that's
Where was
what he's
the-
going to do to you.
where was the
at
vehement
Midnight
nature? No, if it were me, he'd be like, no, you scored nothing.
So yeah, that's sort of like what I'm thinking of right now. It's going to be like 4 pieces that kind of Voltron together.
You mark your points, John, with the pen, so that they can't ever take them away from you, even if you didn't actually score them.
Which is how it will
I
actually
scored
be.
40 points around 1. And they're like, no, you didn't. That's impossible. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Check the
This
fucking
sheet-
scoreboard,
in
bitch.
pen.
It's right here.
It's in pen.
Try and erase it. I dare you.
But yeah, so I have this idea of like the billboard
John's
part.
playing David Blaine. He just wipes it. No! God damn you, David Blaine.
I win through illusions. But no, so I have like kind of this cool idea of like the billboard for like holding Mortarion, because like flyers look cool, but they look weird on their bases and stuff. And like I said, this is all to keep things secure and magnetized down so that like I can see, but the billboard's going to be some kind of defaced thing about a pure soul is a clean mind or something like that, but it's going to be like defaced in an Nurgle way. And then at the underneath the raised road part, there's going to be like the symbol of Nurgle with 3 pipes kind of sticking out with like some water falling down.
Oh, cool.
So just real subtle stuff like that. But I figured I want to make it look good. I'm kind of going the Dave route at LVO this year, that even if I don't win, my stuff's going to look great. You know.
Yeah.
Solid.
Life goals. And then,
thank you.
I bought a chess clock from Amazon.
Yeah, I did too.
Because I feel
I did not.
If I'm
already
bringing
have an
to the
app, so-
table 130 models, it is bequeathed to me to provide a chess clock so I can get the most of my game time and not have my opponents complain that it was my fault, if that makes sense.
That's smart.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they can still complain.
well, they can complain,
They
but
can
if I
do
have
whatever they want.
yeah, this is America.
They
They're
will complain,
free
actually.
to
They'll be
do
like,
what they
Look at
want.
this motherfucker's list right here.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Lucky
Who told
for
him
them.
this list was decent.
Lucky for them, there's no shooting. There's only advancing and charging,
And psychic powers.
and psychic
Well,
powers.
And Mortarian shoots, actually.
And Zool.
Yeah, but it's like what, 18 inches? Like like 2,000 points, one gun.
Or he can throw a grenade.
So it's 18 and
I just
8.
I want to say it's like the whole thing is like
think it's
buffing
12.
Mortarian to be like this.
Mortarian gets 12.
Yeah, he's strong, dude. He can throw a grenade really far.
Fucking goddamn Death Guard bias again.
But it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna take this whole thing where the whole crux is if Mortarian survives is to turn him into this close combat machine that you can just insta-gib things with like 2d6 damage all over the place, and just have him throw a grenade from afar, and just be like, there you go. You're like, why do you do that with him? You're like, honestly, I didn't expect him to survive turn 1, so guess he's just gonna throw grenades now.
You know, he's got a pistol. Oh, I know, but grenade is more offensive.
Yeah. I've been playing a lot of Just Cause 3. Grenades are amazing. Danny, well, what have you been up to as the productive one?
Okay, so I have been building Doomsday arcs.
Nice.
It takes me about 4 lunch times worth of model assembly to build one Doomsday arc because they are horrible.
Awesome.
And you work for the government, so that's like 8 hours at lunchtime.
That's like,
It's as much lunchtime as I worked
I mean,
last week.
but yeah, it takes a while for me to put those together. So I built 2 out of the 3 that I bought. I think I'm actually just going to stick with 2 for right now and keep the other one in the box. And if I want to build them later on, I can to get 3 because eventually I'll probably want to run 3.
I don't know. I feel like
3 Doomsdayers.
all
is
the
pretty good.
incarnations of your list that I've ever seen could probably just benefit from more troops. Like maybe you should get rid of your maybe the bikes, add some immortals or something.
Yeah, we'll see. I think actually what I'm going to do is get rid of my wraiths in my list right now and take more immortals. I think that was the route that I decided to go.
I think you should get some flayed ones.
No. So,
But Danny, they're so cheap and efficient, both points and dollar wise.
so's Dave's mom, but you know what?
She is not points efficient, actually. No.
No, she's cost efficient is what
she
what
has
I'm
a
talking
lot of
about.
extra rules that really bog down the game.
Slows it down. I had to buy her a chess clock.
Can't feed her after midnight.
She's not a freaking gremlin.
She might be. You don't know. Anyway,
Definitely don't want to get her wet. That's the important one.
no water-based lubricants.
Only cooking oil.
I use olive oil. All right, so
What does Popeye
That's
think
natural.
about that?
Oh, God, that's so bad.
Jesus Christ, dude, that is terrible. You should be ashamed of yourself right now.
Can't tell if John's got a migraine because of that or whether he thought it was
I think it
actually
did.
that funny.
I think it's mostly allergies.
Just walking away out of shame.
It's cool that you wear power armor all the time.
It's his bionic legs.
So while I've been kind of building Necrons, I've actually been playing some Chaos.
Yeah, you have. Throwing out some disco stuff.
So I built
Don Houston's list.
No. It's Jeff Robinson's list, more like that one. So it's so we had a 25.
Jeff Robinson is a freaking hack.
You're a hack.
I can say that because Jeff Robinson doesn't listen to the show. Unlike Don
no, he
Houston,
sure doesn't.
who does and is amazing.
I don't know. I don't think Don listens to our
But
show.
on the off chance, I would I would put that in there.
But regardless,
Irregardless, I believe
You're pretty terrible if you listen to the show, regardless of who you are in the 40K community. Just going to throw that out there.
You're just a bad person.
You're just a bad
You're
person.
just as bad as all of us, and we're terrible human beings.
By continuing to listen, you encourage us,
like a
which
shock
is the
attack
worst.
gun.
What's wrong with you? Yeah. Anyway, so I've been playing kind of a list like that. So 3 Lord Discordants that are Flawless Host, which are by far the best.
They are.
And
Unless you go back 4 months from now. Previously, if you go back 4 months, then they're the worst thing ever.
yeah, right. When they came out, now they're totally undercosted, and people are pretty butthurt about it.
Or when one terrible Primaris Repulsor comes out, everyone's like, well, guess Disco Lords are dead now.
That remains to be seen. So we're running them. I kind of been using
Chaos List of Midnight Sun.
a really similar. No, I won't. A really similar Supreme Command. So I've got Araman, Chaos Sorcerer.
We won't meet. Is that what you're saying? Because you won't be
I'm
done.
not. I mean, whatever.
Probably.
Unless it's first round. So
Enjoy your first round loss. And bitch.
oh, are you saying that I'm going to lose first round and then I'll be playing you?
No,
Quit talking to yourself, Dave.
I'm definitely not going to lose first round.
Yeah. So 3 Lord Discordants, and then I've been running. So we had a 2,500 point event that I ran a version of the list in. So I was able to make.
Oh, the cookout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played in that. And so, which is super fun. So to the casual event, I ran out a super fucking hard list, which was
Plus 500 extra points.
great.
Right.
I thought about just bringing summoning points and seeing what happened.
Someone flips
but I
a
didn't.
table
I
is
just-
what happens.
But
I just
then
brought an extra battalion.
there's nothing better than being like the asshole of having a 500 point summoning block and 2,500 point army in turn 3. Like, I don't think I'm going to summon anything. It's okay. It's like that person's like morale just through the fucking floor.
Yeah, I don't need to use these summoning points.
I had a pretty rad turn where I got the Lord Discordant with the Flawless Host Warlord trait, which is 3 extra attacks for every 6+ that it gets to hit instead of just 1. And I think I made about 40 attacks against a unit of Custodes Bikers.
Jesus
Killed
Christ.
the entire unit in 1 round, which was amazing. I had that on
That
him.
sounds amazing.
And Prescience, so he was exploding on 4s. I rolled 5. And he had diabolic strength, so he had 5 attacks.
Are you sure you used prescience right?
Yep, I'm sure I did, Dave.
Yeah. 2,000%.
Yep. So, yeah. So I ended up winning that event, which was cool, but it wasn't like an ITC event or anything. It was just for fun.
Yeah. Because it would have been a dick move to bring 2,500 points in a 2,000 point ICC tournament.
That's my style, Dave.
Hey, it's only cheating
Nobody
if you're
caught
caught.
John got it.
Yeah.
So,
You just got to take like an army no one plays.
right. Yeah, we have an ITC tournament this weekend that I'll be playing in. I'll be bringing Necrons because I want to practice my Midnight Sun list.
Yeah.
So I have to magnetize my Doomsday Arcs this week. That's my plan. And maybe I'll even prime them if I'm feeling spicy.
Yeah.
We'll see, though.
Maybe I'll swing by the shop and record a little taster.
Oh,
You should.
Yeah.
a little taste of the
Yeah.
taster?
Yeah.
Yeah. Before you sample the full bouquet.
You'd be like Four Loko flavor or contrast color because they're
Blind taste test.
they're both going to have the same look.
We'll get those little
It'd have to be
cups.
you would have to just do a brush of both. I mean,
Well, one of them I'll mix together.
One
but
of
then-
them's going to melt the model. The other is contrast paint.
Oh no, you don't. This is for taste testing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's got to tell the difference between the two. You can drink the little cups of.
I don't know that I want to spend $6 to shoot contrast paint.
I will fucking spend $6
I
to
will
watch you drink a
fund that.
small cup of contrast
What
paint.
time's the tournament start? For dice up at noon, right? So
Oh.
registration at 11.
Hey guys, you're going to have to do this closer to the end of the day because I work like right at the start. So you got to hold off until I can come too.
Oh no, I don't see that happening.
Well, Dave's not going to play, so
Yeah.
we have to do it before the tournament. Because
Yeah.
even if Dave says he's coming, he's not going to
Yeah,
come.
that's true. I don't have the models for the list that I want to run.
Unlike what his wife says.
That was a
Yeah.
sex joke about
Yeah,
your wife.
because Danny said that if he says he's coming, he's not going to come.
No. You need some more buttons on that baby's first soundboard over there.
No,
Because that needed crickets the second time.
baby's
around.
fourth soundboard.
Otherwise, though, I've been doing a lot of conceptualization of lists and just kind of figuring some stuff out and trying to decide what path I want to take on next. Necrons have been pretty fun. I don't know if I want to play Necrons like every single event, though. I don't know if that sounds like a super good time. I also like to win a GT this year, so that'd be cool.
There's only 2 coming up, so
Yeah, I want to try and win one of them. It would be really awesome if I won one of them.
we're getting close on the Midnight Sun, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think we're going to do it.
Oh yeah, we'll hit it for sure.
So,
Pretty
Neat.
excited.
which is great.
Okay, cool. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And we're going to talk about Getting Good.
Dude, I'm the best. I took first place at another tournament.
First off, stop with the thunder and lightning. You don't impress me. And second, let me check out the BCP rankings. And I don't see you on there.
What?
Your TO needs to download the Best Coast Pairings app and run events on it. After the event, the results are uploaded into BCP rankings, and the best part, it's easy and free.
But I play multiple game systems.
No big deal. The BCP app can be used for any game. A ton of events every weekend are using it, from major international tournaments to local stores. And now that it's available on Android devices, you're going to have some serious competition.
There can be only one.
BCP Rankings is a fun and exciting way to measure how you or your team stack up. No matter what you play, your score goes to an overall ranking, or compete to be the best in a game, a circuit, a region, or the world.
Download the app or visit www.bestcoastpairings.com for more info.
Best Coast Pairings.
Are you the best?
And we're back. So I was really interested in this because I'm not very good at the game. And Dave, I took inspiration from you because you're not very good at the game.
Thank you for. Oh, I thought you muted me. Actually, I watched you move a button down. Dave, I took inspiration from you.
But something like I don't see a lot and I haven't heard a lot, I haven't found a lot is kind of just like getting good tips. Like a lot of the podcasts I listen to and a lot of the forums I go to, they assume kind of like a base level of knowledge and a base sort of skill set, and you kind of build on that there. Like if you're making a list, they're just like, why the fuck did you take that guy? Why didn't you take this guy? And you're like, I don't know.
Because I like the model.
Because I like him. So Danny, get us started off.
All right. So this kind
Insert your PayPal information here to continue with this Patreon.
to join our Patreon and learn all about how to do. Just kidding. You guys can learn all of this stuff for free. We're happy to
just
give it to
cut
you.
it right there and end the show.
We also want to, before we start here, announce our $20 a month Patreon level. No, I'm kidding.
Where Danny gets good with you.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
No, just with your mom.
That does not mean what you think it means.
Well, it might.
Are you saying that like
You
if
don't know
people
it
give
doesn't.
us $20 a month, Danny will fuck their mom?
I don't know. Well, I mean, it's a lot of money, Danny, and it will pay for Vegas.
I'll just have to clear it with my wife. I'm sure she'll be fine.
I'll just slip her a Mickey.
It's for a good cause, baby.
You're like,
Think about how much
I'm
cheaper
going to
Vegas will be.
Vegas. Yeah.
We could go to Hawaii immediately afterwards.
Don't worry. I promise that I won't spend it all on strippers.
you're like, hey, honey, don't worry.
Hello.
After the fees,
And that's
it's like
$50
$16
level.
bucks.
It's $50 level.
This to get mob
Dude,
rules
I
in
eat
the
ass
strip
for
club.
$50. All right, so
Jesus. Wow. That's the first tip and trick right there. That's how you get good. For
just
$50.
playing.
Oh, shit.
Baby's
thing I
first soundboard.
Good thing I don't edit this anymore.
All right, so what this is this is kind of going to be a baseline interview or review of some common like things that you can do to become better at the game. And I'm not a technical whiz or anything at 40K, but I do pretty good. And so I'm kind of going to go over some higher level like maneuvers and things that you should think about maybe, or not even higher level. I would say just like basic things that you need to think about when you're playing in order to become better at the game, and things you need to think about and are keeping in mind, and things that you can practice to become better.
40K 101.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly right.
Now, don't forget, before you listen to this episode of the podcast of Getting Good with Danny, you need to listen to the Getting Okay with Danny.
And not the sucking ass
the
with John.
That's the remedial level, yeah.
John and Dave, sucking ass.
Sucking ass with John and Dave. Why did you put your guy right up front? I was like, well, I feel like I read the novel. He would be in front of all of his troops.
My character is inspiring all of his troops to do what he wants.
I read the books.
Dude,
They're in the
seriously.
front line.
He's
These
a
are-
guard commander.
These are my 100 custom-made dice with 6 unique faces on each one.
Go fuck yourself.
All right.
All right, so
So
our aim in this is to teach you kind of how better to play, like get a better understanding again of some basic concepts of the game, and we want to do this because like everybody should be able to get better if they want to, and if this is something that's interesting to you, like keep listening. Maybe you'll pick up some tips or something like that.
A rising tide raises all ships.
That's right, and then, so if you get better, we get better, which is great, and the game gets better too.
yeah.
So before we get into what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down kind of by phase. I'm going to first go over some pregame stuff, then deployment, then the movement phase, shooting phase, charge phase. You know what I didn't think about? I didn't put anything on the psychic phase. We'll cover the psychic phase too, though.
Nobody plays with.
He's been playing Necrons too much recently.
Yeah, seriously, right? Just ignore that phase.
ignore
That
that.
phase is for fucking chumps. All right, and then so shooting phase, charge phase, assault phase, and then I'm going to go over the end of turn phase, which is actually a phase in itself as well. So just some things to keep in mind. So before the game even starts,
the pregame. Okay.
The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you have all the materials you need to play, right? And this isn't just for for a casual game, of course, you're going to want this stuff. But for a tournament, you want to make sure you show up with all of the things that you need to play the game. So a measuring tape, a pen.
Not a pencil.
Not a pencil.
Oh.
If you have widgets for wound counters or objective markers, that kind of stuff, that's good to have as well. And then, of course, models you chud.
Models you chud is your legit note right there.
All right.
So so make sure, what I like to do before I go to a tournament, the night before, I line up my army. And I give them a pep talk. I tell them, you're going to do good tomorrow. You're pretty enough. You're smart enough. You're strong enough.
I might have forgot I owned you up until this point, but I still love you.
I found you. Yeah. And then just
That's what
make
we're
sure
doing wrong, John. We
you
don't do
have everything before you go, because I can't count the number of times that I've been lackadaisical about this and showed up to a tournament without a model, and I had to proxy something or rely on the goodwill of strangers to provide me with a model.
I've been I know before I've been oh shit, I'm out of chaos spawn. And I think I've ended up using a demon prince as a chaos spawn or something weird like that.
You borrowed my patriarch.
There you go, as a patriarch, because I forgot a model. And if you're in a cool guy community, great. But if you show up to some events, it's relying on the kindness of strangers, which at times does not exist.
Well, I was listening to another podcast, and the guy was talking about how he left his entire unit of Zangors on his painting table before he embarked on a cross-country road trip to multiple tournaments.
Oh.
So luckily he had some extra models from other things.
Right.
But he had to modify his army list, which wasn't as good. He felt like it hurt his chances. And he says that hopefully maybe he can borrow some models for one of the other tournaments that he's going to.
Yeah,
That's rough.
Some fun.
Dude.
Or maybe if you had a loving partner could go in UPS or FedEx the unit down to him.
Exactly.
Dude,
I mean, that's
I
what
may
would
have
do.
legit done that for Ted really one Adepticon where he forgot some
really?
stuff he needed. Yeah.
Oh man,
I
that
ran over to his
sucks.
house and grabbed it and FedExed it to him as fast as possible.
You're a good friend.
Yes. And then again, for things like pens, if you
Pencils.
I would even
Right.
bring more than one.
that's
smart.
my Achilles heel right there. Because when we play and then we're playing ITC style missions, and
yeah.
okay, write down your points, and oh shit, I have a Sharpie, I guess.
You know what? I
I have this charcoal stick.
I bring one pen for every
Mark it on
round
the
of the
wall.
game.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I was
Yeah.
going to say bring more than one pen. I also bring more than one tape measure. And that's come in handy a couple of times where I've either broken a tape measure or my opponent forgot theirs and I was able to lend
You're
it out.
powerful. Ooh,
Such
you
power.
broke the tape measure. Jesus.
Well, when you use a tape
Brag.
measure as much as I do, sometimes they wear out, Dave. You probably wouldn't know about that.
Yeah, because I don't move my models. I
No,
bring.
you don't play the game.
I bring tank. Oh.
So, all right. And so finally, the last material that you're going to need for sure is your dice. And I wanted to kind of go over some dice etiquette, first of all, right? If you have dice and you bring them to the table and you roll them, don't put your dice away, back in a cube or whatever else, unless you're using that, because you're playing orcs and you roll a cube of dice at a time, and that's how you measure your dice. All right, I need 2.5 cubes or whatever. That's an okay way to do it. But ultimately, if you're rolling 4 or 5 dice at a time, just have your dice on the damn table, because I've seen that before for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. No, that was don't pause, don't stop. I was like, all right.
No, by the way, when I'm going over this stuff, I want you guys to interject with your opinions. I mean, I'm talking to you guys specifically. Like, not that you're doing this stuff, but like...
I want just people listening to be yelling at their car radios or their phones right now.
Pencils are the way to go, Danny!
Fuck you and your pencil.
I will say, though, pre-counting dice is something I started doing a few years ago.
Absolutely.
Because I've found that no matter what army I gravitate to, I gravitate towards hordes.
I've met you before, yes.
So, hordes all over the place. So what I do when I'm playing is I'll generally have 50 to 60 dice, and in front of me, they'll be split up into piles of 5.
Sure.
And then that way, if I know, like, if Danny shoots at my unit, and he's like, you need to make 40 saves, I have 8 piles to pick up instead of counting to 40 every time.
Yep.
And reorganizing those piles is something I can do when he's moving and doing, like, other gameplay things. Yep. So that's what I do in order to keep myself organized and kind of keep a fast pace while playing a horde is kind of having my little piles in front of me.
I think that's a really good idea just in general.
Yeah.
Playing custodes, a lot of my guys were 6 dice models, so for shooting and whatnot. So I would do multiples of 6 instead of 5.
You know, and that's great because you want it to represent your army and what you're actually rolling. So sometimes 5 is good, sometimes 6, sometimes 8, sometimes 4.
Is never good.
Something else I do with dice, because again, it's all about kind of keeping a good pace and having a good cooperative experience, is say if Dave is shooting his repulsor tank at one of my units, and I know that tank is rolling out 8,000 shots, and it's hitting on a 3+, I'm going to start pulling aside 5,000 dice. And kind of just start trying to think about, okay, how many is going to hit, how many is going to wound, and kind of start from there.
I absolutely do that, and what I do is I start with what I think is going to be the mathematical average of how many wounds they're going to do to me, and I pick up that many dice and either take them out, or I put more in as they're telling me how many wounds. Like as they're counting the number of wounds, I'm counting dice to put in my hand.
Yep,
and that speeds things up quite a bit. So the other thing. Sorry, go ahead.
So that's all pregame we're talking about? I mean, because the
this
dice
is
stuff
like
is
during the game, but it's important to have your dice, but also to like, these are things that you can be thinking about. Like before the game starts, I would organize your dice into sets of 5.
Yep.
All right. I just wanted to make sure because, you haven't touched on something important yet. And I thought maybe I missed, and it was something that took place during the regular game. But what phase does the 11 Loco take place in?
That is the
pre-gaming phase,
the pre-event phase.
Yeah. Okay. So like the night before when you're giving your pep talk to your models.
Yeah, sometimes I'm drunk.
Yeah. Wouldn't you be to have to sit and talk to a plastic horde?
And if they give me lip, sometimes I spit alcohol on them. Like I don't know, I'm not averse to that.
You know, Mortarian looked at me nastily today, and all of a sudden I'm like, man, maybe I'm going to take some plague burst crawlers instead. How the fuck do you like that?
Yeah, I think that was just a Benadryl.
And you can't like fart on Mortarian either, like as to show him who's boss, because he's just going to like that. No. So
yeah,
who are you farting on to show who's boss? You have a weird marriage.
That's why he's not dominance. The boss. Right, well, that is absolutely part of it.
So he's implying that his wife farts on him to show who's boss.
Or my dog.
But hey, so you have something else here under dice, which is contentious because I have very strong feelings one way about it.
All right, so dice roll.
Are you for it?
I'm against them.
Well, you're a pussy.
Oh, really? How come?
So this just comes, and it's maybe like a miseducation thing, but I come from a generation that grew up playing either Halo split screen where you're peeking over and looking at someone else's screen, or then Halo multiplayer where you get hacks and cheats and things like that. I feel technology is too easily manipulated to make it a reliable thing to do every time. Like for me, I need to be able to tactilely see it and do it. If it's an app, on someone else's $1,000 piece of property, it reduces my chances to examine and confirm that it's like a real thing and not some shitty weird Android app that someone made look like the GW app.
Oh, okay. Well, so I would probably only use Games Workshop, the Assault Dice app.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he's saying if someone
cloned it or hacked it or something like that.
Well,
if somebody is doing that, like the amount of effort that it takes to make a modification to that, especially since it's not a random number generator, it's a physics based dice engine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not going to know anyway. There's a lot less effort to cook dice than to do that.
Fair, but I don't like computers. As
Okay.
I talk into my microphone and look into my board and phone.
Which is a computer.
Yeah, which is
And is also a computer.
I'm not a fan of the dice app on phones. I know phones have gotten a lot bigger, but it's too hard for me to see on the phone. And not because I'm an old man who am blind. It's just,
I mean, that's part
if
of it.
they
But
know what they're doing, then you can, they can hit buttons faster than I can see it on a phone. When we were in Vegas, one of the games we played was against somebody that was using it on an iPad.
Uh-huh.
And on an iPad, it was great.
Okay.
Like, put it down, everything was huge. You could see exactly.
we were old
everything it was
men,
doing.
and I can't see 100 dice rolled at once on a little phone screen.
But I mean, you can't see 100 dice that are rolled in front of you either. Like, there's too many to count. Like, people are going to pick stuff up and
Maybe
move
for
stuff
you.
faster.
Rain Man over here counts really fucking fast.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. But regardless, I think it's important that kind of stuff is allowed. And what you need to look at is the numbers up top, because if you want to finish a game in the set amount of time, I think it's perfectly reasonable for somebody to use an official application. I'm
not saying I'm against it. I would prefer to, if somebody's going to use it, they were using it on an iPad rather than, or a Samsung Galaxy Tab or whatever.
So the point I was going to make about this, Dave, is that I think that if you're going to use something like this, you need to practice it. You can't like come to a tournament and use it for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, you need to practice using it and make sure that you're fast enough that it's actually saving time.
Yeah, and then my concern as well with this
But not too
goes
fast.
to like if you have everything on your iPad, right? So you have your dice roller app and your codex and your army book and everything's on this one iPad. So you're going to spend time switching between iPads, and then what happens if your battery starts running low and you
have
not
to start
near the
rolling
table?
dice manually.
So I'm just
I mean,
it's a tactile game in my opinion, and I know dice rollers are popular, and I get your points on what you're saying. I'm just a bitter old man.
okay. So, moving on. The next thing you need to do before you even step up to the game is understand what the missions are. Now, it doesn't matter what system you're using for a tournament or an event or just like a pickup game. You have to know like what the style of missions are and what they require of you before you step up to the table. So make sure that you have read and understand what the missions are. Like, do some research. Like, go out there, look at it, think about them, because that's important. And then understand like what constitutes scoring. So when you look at a mission, what you really need to look at is, all right, how am I going to win the game? Like, what do I need to do to win? So, do I need to sit on this objective? Do I need to sit on that objective? Like, do I need to control my own territory? Do I need to be aggressive? And like that can be aggressive. Sure. And that can be something that's kind of like an overarching theme for a tournament or for like a set of missions. Like, okay, well, these missions kind of favor an army that's going to like hang out in my deployment zone, and I don't have to move around much. I can just take objectives in the center of the board. I don't ever really have to go over to my opponent's side. Then you're going to want to play something that's a little bit more shooty. Whereas, like,
Hey, that's what I do.
Yeah. I think a great example of this is when Dave played on Warhammer TV. He was playing against a Astra Militarum army. And if you looked just kind of top down without understanding the mission, you would have thought, Dave, oh, you've lost turn 2, right? But you started playing towards the mission.
You mean the turn that the Baneblade decided to run over a bunch of crap and killing it magically?
Right. And the stream commentary was hilarious because they were just shitting on you because they didn't read the mission. As Dave's like subtly moving some stuff around and kind of playing to the objective rather than playing to wipe.
so yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't want to look bad on Warhammer TV. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Thank God there's no face cams.
And so
Because, looking bad on TV. It's a joke about your face.
I see. I get you. I'm picking up what you're laying down.
chirp.
Oh man, sound
Best I
effects
got.
by
Yeah,
Dave
That's
today.
the best I got because
Yeah.
somebody's only got 8.
I only have
buttons.
8 buttons. Such a crappy board.
So the other thing you want to pay attention to, like with the mission structure, is like what you're gonna. This can also potentially influence what kind of stuff you need to bring to the game. So for like ETC format, you need to bring Maelstrom cards, for instance.
Oh, yeah. So that increases your pregame kind of what do I need to take with me kind of deal.
Absolutely. Yep. And then like I think for them too, they have a weird rule where you can like remove 6 cards from your deck as well.
Huh.
So, like, to kind of customize your deck a little bit.
Yeah, so you're not pulling like, shoot down a flyer and the person doesn't have any flyers or something like that, right?
Right.
Well, in the ETC, everybody's got flyers. They're all Eldar glass movers over there.
Or if there's one like, successfully cast a psychic power and
I
you're
have
like,
no psychics.
you're a Tau army, like, great, okay.
Thanks for that, guy.
Think really hard.
And then
one blue skin dude, like, I need this objective.
I'm trying so hard to score a victory point for you.
did you do a power? No, but they respect me now.
No, they didn't. And then they're like, I want to kind of make a note about ITC because that is very different than any of the other kind of formats, except for like some of the other US formats. So it's kind of similar to Nova. It's kind of similar to Renegade. It's kind of similar to ATC.
Yeah, and it's just sort of they are the runners of the largest tournament in the world right now. So it's a good format to know.
Yeah, for sure. And so part of ITC is making sure every single turn you're killing a unit, you're holding an objective, and then you're scoring your secondaries, there's a whole plethora of them.
Right.
And so you can kind of design your army around trying to score those objectives and minimizing what your opponent can score on you. Although I think minimizing what your opponent can score on you is kind of a trap. It makes you build your list worse. So
I think with the championship missions, it doesn't do good. Like I think the last go around of ITC missions, it worked way better in.
Sure.
But they've kind of developed and matured to a point where it's a detriment now to do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, yeah, onto that point, like the list I built for the ITC tournament, we came up with this kind of great fun gimmick of just, hey, I want to autopilot it. But like kind of sitting looking at it and then comparing it to the missions that we have there, like I noticed like a gap where I could just kind of have a Beast of Nurgle, like sit in backfield for 40 points, hold an objective every turn,
sure,
possibly be like an engineer for a secondary, but kind of taking that into account as part of the overall game plan and not just, hey, this is an annoying list.
100%.
I prefer just to build annoying lists. I actually, when it comes down to list generation, one of the things you said to me at one point in time was, how do you win with this list? When I put up a list that I really liked, and I was like, I don't know. I've stopped building a list to try to think about secondaries, actually, either positive or negative. In fact, I tried to build a list for primaries, knowing what the primaries are and being able to, get them. And so if I have to hold my objective and my opponent's objective, I've built a list that will give me the opportunity to be in their backline causing problems and taking their objective as well,
sure,
in order to win with the primary.
Yeah.
Barring that, I always build towards the ITC mission old school,
okay,
which is just all of the basic stuff. And by that, I mean, it's the only one that I ever really take. That the rest of them are kind of like a coin flip half the time for me.
I hate taking that one.
I know you do.
I never max it out ever.
I almost always max it out every single time.
I don't take it because I feel like I never get first blood.
Yeah. And it's you get 4 points in the mission. First one is first blood, killing unit in your first turn. Slaying the warlord, linebreaker, and last strike, which is killing unit in the last turn.
Mm-hmm.
First blood is getting super tricky to get.
I guess for me it doesn't ever seem like it is.
You get to a point though, if you're staring across the table and you see like a Castellan, and then you have like a little easily killable unit. Do you focus your fire on the Castellan, like so it can't devastate your army, or do you get one ITC point?
Yes.
I would say you kill the unit.
Yeah.
I mean,
like for me, it adds to target.
If he's got a shitty little 5-man unit, I've got the right kind of fire for that.
In fact, I would say you always want to kill the 5-man unit first before you do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess this is why you're getting good.
Because then that assures your kill, right? If you have the opportunity to get something like that.
And don't leave it at one fucking model, because some asshole like Danny will pop 2 CP and keep
I'll
it
just
alive.
auto pass. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Shit.
Yeah.
I give 0 fucks about that. All right, so
You're a garbage human being, sir.
So the next thing I want to go over is kind of army list construction. Now, like I'm an okay army list builder, so take what I say with a grain of salt, kind of. But like understand the format that you're playing and what's going to be good in that particular format. So like, again, read the mission structure, understand what you're doing, kind of have a good idea of what you need to bring in order to succeed. What are you going to do to win? That's the first question that you need to ask yourself about your army. Then build a list. It may not be the best list, but as long as it answers that question and you're able to kind of combat some very basic threats, so kind of like, can you fight aircraft? Can you fight horde infantry? Can you fight this stuff? You have to have answers to all those questions before you can say, like, without a doubt, I can win.
It's almost like you're making a mini essay of, if I come up against this, I will do this. If I come up against this, I will do this. And kind of putting that game plan in your head right away.
And sometimes, like, you will come up against something that you hadn't thought of, or something that just is a hard counter to what you bring. Like, you can't be good against everything, but you can be good against most things.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing but storm shields against custodes. Womp womp.
Oh man, invulnerable save versus invulnerable save.
Yes.
Invulnerable save versus big tank guns and not a lot of bolts of fire.
Yes, it's
Fair enough. Just got to saturate with wounds, and then in that case.
Yep.
So build a list and then review it with your peers. And hopefully not just your peers, but somebody who's better than you. Like, that's important.
yeah. I
So-
mean, I'd say that's fair.
Like-
Because I'm sorry, Dave was signaling some fantastically.
Yeah.
But
His
like
sign language really needs some work.
yeah. But if you could see it, it was exquisite.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, like if you have this great list and you're super hyped about it, and you go to your buddy and you're like, "Hey, check out this great list. It's amazing." And your friend's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, it's super good. It's great. I'm gonna go get my Inquisition army and we'll play against each other." But if you take it to someone and like you looking for real critical feedback on, okay, hey, how's it gonna do that? Because you're blindly. I mean, I get blinded super easily by the model. All right. And it's just like, hey, I have to include this model in my army. And I take my list a lot to you, Danny, for kind of like refinement. And it's a lot of times you're like, why are you taking this guy? I'm like, oh, I really like the model. You're like, oh, okay, cool.
But
Like,
you can make it work. Like,
oh
that's
yeah,
an okay
for
thing
sure.
to do,
But I'm
right?
just like, yeah.
So, but you have to have a game plan for that model ahead of time. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, play your list. Play it a bunch of times. I have here, play your list 20 times before a big event. So once you kind of settled on a list that you want, you need to play it over and over again and play the same list exactly like the same way. And because if you don't do that and you make modifications to your list every single time, first of all, you're not getting real practice with your list. You're getting practice with like a generic concept.
Yeah.
And you really need to work on getting to a level where you have mastery of your list inside and out. So even if your list sucks, like you've played it like 10 times, you're like, well, this shit sucks. Like, I don't want to take this particular unit. Keep playing that list, and maybe you'll find a use for that unit that you're like, oh, okay, maybe I do actually like this unit. Or at the end of it, you'll finally be like, this just isn't good.
But even then, like someone with a bad list, but who knows how to use its parts, is going to be better than someone with a good list that doesn't know how it works.
Absolutely. That is very, very, very true.
It's the story of my life.
And I think that's like why a lot of negativity comes to net listing, right? So like you go online, you find a super powerful list, or you just play what won the recent GT. You're disregarding like hundreds of hours of playtime it took to be able to run that.
Oh,
right?
yeah, of course. Like a lot of these guys will play 4 or 5 times a week. Like that's probably out of my realm of possibility. Well, I mean, I could do it. I just don't want to. I've got other stuff going on. But like you could and you should be
But
doing
you
that stuff.
plebes, you should definitely be doing it.
Well, I mean, you should play your list a bunch of times is what I'm saying. Like maybe not 5 times a week, like not run 100 games before a tournament, because that's what these really good guys are doing. But just keep that in mind. And then you have pre-game stratagems. So before the game starts, like you can spend some CP on some various different things.
No, these used to be sort of codex specific, like some codexes had them, but now there's like a universal one that can be used.
Oh, it's so nice.
Sure. Like you've got prepared positions, for instance, is one that everybody can use, and that's 2 CP, and that gives your entire army cover on the first turn if you're going second.
Or as long as you're not an aircraft or a knight.
Yeah, it's a Lord of War. Yeah. So,
well, it's not just Lord of War.
Or maybe it's Titanic.
I was going to say it's Titanic.
It's Titanic, because I was going to get really sad about Mortarion for a second.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it affects Mortarion. My bad. You're right. Yeah, I think it's not aircraft. It's flyer battlefield roll.
Is it flyer?
Yeah, because some aircraft don't have the flyer battlefield roll because they're Lords of War.
Chunderhawk.
Yeah, or the stupid Orion from Custodes.
Chunderhawk fun ships.
Also, you can spend ones to get like extra relics before the game starts and things like that. And depending on the type of event that you're attending, you may have to write this in your army list. You may not. But usually you have to at least write the free relic that you get. And if you want to spend extra points to add extra relics. And while having extra relics is really nice, just really think about, like, is it better for me to have these CP in my pool, or is it better for me to take these relics? Like what is actually going to provide me with the best in-game benefit?
Because for that 2 CP you're spending for
Honestly,
extra relics, you could
3, yeah.
auto pass a morale test.
Sure, or fight again with
Or fight
orcs,
again.
like,
or bring back an entire unit of 30 boys.
So
Yeah, exactly.
my number one thing that I'm not good at is remembering to use stratagems. And I fully admit that. I tend to play a game without using any of the fancy stratagems. Like this, I do this, and these guys do this, or fight again with orcs, as you said, or stooping dive with the custodes. Like I don't remember them. That is my biggest weakness in this game is remembering those non-army specific or army specific stratagems, as opposed to just look at me, I reroll, pass a morale, fight first. The ones that are generic to everybody, and that's an area that I need to get better at. But when I was playing just my Primaris only list, I didn't have to worry about it because most of the stratagems just didn't apply to what I was playing at the time.
Interesting. Okay.
So, that's why I was able to build and play a list that didn't require me to remember that I need to Iron Hands Armor of Contempt on a vehicle,
But I mean,
But you know what I'm saying.
but you should.
Yeah, counterpoint
The
to
point
this.
is I could still win games without doing that because I built a list that didn't require me to remember that, if that makes sense.
Counterpoint to that, like since I've started getting good, is before
That's 20 minutes ago.
I know it's amazing, and I've been reading this whole time. No, but before I even begin constructing an army list, I read the stratagems because I want to see, hey, this is really cool. How can I use this effectively? So by basing it off of, because before, Dave, I was like you, I didn't see the point of them. There's like 3 extra pages of shit to learn and another like resource mechanic to learn. And everyone has a billion CP and they'll just steal mine if I use it. So what's the goddamn point? But these are like an integral part of the game now. And these are kind of extra rules that you can give your units that give them the benefits.
I would say that I win at least 50% of the games that I play on the back of my stratagems. Probably. They make my army work. If I couldn't use them, then the units that I choose would be totally different. Like, I wouldn't run the same units that I do.
50% of the time, it works 100% of the time.
but seriously, like,
No,
I'm
what I'm saying is I need to get better at it.
oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
sure.
As opposed to just continuing to build lists that allow me to have a 75% win record without having to actually use the stratagems itself. Mind you, that list probably is dramatically changed at this point, given so many other stuff has come out, like Lord Discordance.
Also, did you notice he used percentages instead of saying he played 4 games in the last 2 years?
He's played more than that.
Yeah.
He's played at least 6 games.
That's
I was
good.
going to say, I've played at least 12 games in the last...
Oh, good for you, man. That's great.
When was our last Urza?
Oh, Dave.
September.
Yeah,
Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
that's like
Actually, I'm
9
at like
months.
30 games since September.
30 games.
Are we including Uno in this?
No, only 40K.
Okay.
Okay, cool, good, Dave.
Now before that though, it was like 0. So
Sure. So
But,
so that's kind of what I wanted to go over pregame. So I wanted to talk about the next section. I wanted to talk about was deployment, and this is something that I'm always working on because like I don't necessarily think about this stuff. I just set my army up in the formation that I feel like it should be to maximize benefits from the things that I get.
Bretonian Lance.
Sure, or like auras or that kind of stuff. But I've tried to be a lot more cagey about it, and I pre-measure everything now. So, like, I think I've gotten a lot better about that, where I'm able to determine, okay, well, this stuff is gonna, like, they're gonna have to take hits, like, and that's fine, because they're in range of my enemy's weapons. And so, let me go back. Let's talk about what threat range means. So, threat range is
Dave's arm span.
No, that's not a threat. So
His hugs are lethal.
You're the Death Guard guy. Come on.
So threat range is the range of your opponent's weapons combined potentially with their movement potential.
Right.
Or like their charge range plus their movement. Like that's also a threat range as well.
Plus rolling boxcars.
So sure. So measuring out what your opponent's threat range is and then making sure that you're outside of their threat range, regardless of what actually happens if they seize the initiative or whatever else, is a hugely important thing. And that's a hugely important thing that really good players do. They measure everything, and they measure twice just to make sure they're not in range. So, like, for instance, if you were playing in a mission with table quarters, for instance, and you were like 18 inches away from your opponent, and he brought like 20 wolfen, and like they can move 7 inches plus a d6, so they could roll a 6, so they can move 13 inches, and then they could charge in addition to that, so they could potentially have a threat range of 25 inches for the 12-inch range charge, right? So that means that you should play your units 25 inches back from that unit. Or if you had, like, let's say, repulsors, and they had a -2 inches to charge, you could deploy them 23 inches away and still be perfectly safe from all of your opponent's attacks and potential assault ability. Oh. So you really only are deploying like 4 inches back from the deployment line.
Okay.
And then that way you'd be totally safe from their charge on the first turn, even if they seize the initiative. So,
I forgot that I had the -2 today.
and this situation is exactly what happened to Dave at the States tournament. So
I wonder why your head hit the microphone so
What are you
hard.
talking about? Oh,
did you forget about graphic backwash?
I totally forgot about graphic backwash.
Sorry, man.
It was actually my legit first time ever running those tanks. So I forgot a lot
that's a
about
super
them.
important role.
Yeah,
But
it's probably 100 of the points.
I don't know about that. It's a lot. That's a 50-point ability for sure.
I was feeding him points, so he'd had to face you in round 2. You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. I actually appreciate that. But like pre-measure everything. Make sure that you're outside of your opponent's threat range. Make sure that their tank can't move up and then also shoot you. And if it can, don't deploy within range of the weapon so that it can stand still and do it. Give them the -1 to move and shoot you. Like, make sure that you are understanding what the risks are and what you're taking if you're not going first and you're going to take that alpha strike in 40K, which is potentially the most devastating part of the game. In addition to that, hide your models. Like, you can hide them behind terrain. You can hide them, in terrain, so at least they're getting cover. So, like, if you have to deploy in threat range, make it hard for your opponent to kill your models as hard as possible. In addition to that, deploy your models so you're maximizing the abilities that you have. So one thing that you want to do is make sure you're in like the auras for your characters and stuff like that. So as many of your units can benefit from the auras that you're taking as possible.
Okay.
And the last thing I want to talk about is model security. Understand what your opponent's models can do to yours before you start. So like if you have a screen of plague bearers, for instance, in front of all of your characters, and your opponent has enough firepower that they can totally clear an entire squad of plague bearers before you go and then be able to shoot your characters like when they have no protection, be aware of that. Or one thing that I commonly see is people underestimating how fast flyers are, because flyers move across the board and they will be in your deployment zone on turn 1. Mm-hmm. That's just a thing that happens. So don't like put a line of models in front of your characters, but put nothing behind your characters, so that somebody can fly a plane over your army and shoot behind them and kill your character on the first turn. Because I see that all the time.
That's something I did against Nate when I was playing his Space Wolves. I had my Eldar. He deployed in a way, and turn 1, I flew 2 Hemlocks up the board right beside his Warlord and just wiped him off the table.
Yep,
because
absolutely.
like he left 2 plane size to the point where I thought it was a trap. But I'm like, all right, trade a plane for a Warlord kill. But it's just like, oh, that's right. Planes move 60 inches a turn.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So, and then always plan on going second. Like even if you get the +1 to go first, you're still only getting like a 60% chance or so of actually going first.
Right.
So just keep that in mind.
So make your plan A, make your plan B.
Yep, absolutely. Have a plan. Stick to it. All right. So the next phase is movement. Thank you. That
have a
is a
sound
great
for
sound
that.
effects.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice work, man.
I turned it down before you could reach over.
All right. So one thing you want to do. Oh, by the way, did you guys have anything you wanted to say during the deployment phase thing, or did I cover it?
I mean,
well?
you covered it. I mean, the thing I remember just from when I play is auras being hugely important and stating intent. So the way I played my Craft World Eldar was about 50, 60 Dire Avengers with kind of an Azerman, Autarch, Farseer blob in the center there. And just making sure everything was within 6 inches of my command blob in the center.
Sure.
So like kind of double checking. And then the other thing comes with that, because you're placing units for a lot of missions, kind of like I place one, you place one, making sure you leave enough space to put the things you want to put down.
Absolutely.
Because I have run into times before where I've placed everything, but I'm like kind of like, oh, I'm going to leave my warlord till last because like I want to see what he's going to do with the snipers or whatever, right? And then I go to put him down, he doesn't fucking fit anymore. And you're like,
so
cool.
One thing that I do, and this is kind of a trick that I do, is I like to put my characters down first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
And so, because that kind of makes my opponent think, all right, well, I think his models are going to go around those guys probably. So what am I going to do? And then I can place the models to make sure that they benefit from all the auras that my characters have, which is important. Like, especially, I've been playing a lot of Necrons lately, right? And the Necron character auras are super important.
Mm-hmm.
So I really try and benefit from those as much as possible, especially the Cryptech. So the Cryptech is super important for my army.
Yeah.
Dave, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, that was golden.
Awesome.
Move on to movement.
Oh, good transition, John.
I wish I kept the applause button on here.
So the first thing I want to talk about is important models in the movement phase. So move the important models first. So like we talked about your characters and their auras and stuff like that. If you have the opportunity, and it's important to think about this during deployment, where you're going to move on the first turn, right? So moving your characters that have these auras first, so you can see where they end up, especially if they're going to do something like advance, so that you can maintain that aura, is super important. So if you can do that, do that. If you can't, because you can't obviously move through your own models, then, I mean, it's not a necessity, but it definitely helps to figure out where you're going to go.
Like going back to my Craft World Eldar thing, there was a time where I advanced the Dire Avengers first, and then I go to advance Azerman, and I get like a 1, and all of a sudden he's just in the middle of the table, out of range of like 30 Dire Avengers. So they lose their invulnerable, they lose like the everything.
That was a great game, actually.
So one thing you can do to curtail that, like if you do have to move the unit first, is you can pre-measure. Again, pre-measuring is your friend. You want to make sure you do this as much
legal,
as possible.
regardless of
right.
what anybody tells you.
Measure back and string models back. So you have a unit coherency of 2 inches per model, right?
Right.
And models are at least on a base of 1 inch. So that means you can get 3 inches off of one model. So if you go backwards 2 models, that's 6 whole inches that you get for free. And everybody likes 6 inches.
Yes.
John gets 3 inches off a model every time.
Is that wait? The model's giving me 3 inches.
It's only 3 inches because his dick is tiny.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if they're giving it to me, then I'm confused.
Either way, it's still only 3 inches, you tiny dick bastard.
Subtlety gone. You have a tiny wiener and you're a dick.
Man, things are getting testy over here. All right. So
So that's it for movement.
Yeah.
No.
So again, during the movement phase, keep in mind those threat ranges. Know what you're moving into. Like, are you moving into threat range? Are you moving out of threat range? Can you move out of threat range? Can you move out of line of sight? Can you move into, a particular area that's beneficial, or into a cover, or or you can use it to bait your opponent out. Is your opponent going to have to move into range to shoot that thing? Will they then be in range in your threat range to be able to do that? Super critical, super important. That's a really great skill to learn.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get the new Repulsor, Excelsior, Annihilator, Executioner, and give it a try out, because I want to test out some of the stuff that it can do, most of which is be beneficial if it's not moving. So setting up super far back and making
or moving slowly, right?
Yeah, or moving slowly, going less than half. So
Sure.
but if you're doing it in such a way that you want to keep your auras with you anyway, a tank that normally moves 14, very quickly outpaces a dude that moves 6.
Sure.
+1 for advancing, because that's what I always roll. So, it's just one of those things that keeps them all together tight and still get all your auras.
Yeah, you got to keep
And
it tight.
man, those guys are definitely going to want auras. I can already tell.
The old Dave advance.
7 inches.
He just says it's 7. That's important. Now we like to go into measuring accurately. That's the next section I want to talk about.
Oh, you have a point right here that someone tried to pull on me, and I'm usually a really nice person playing a game, but I
Sure.
knock that shit out right away.
So make sure you're not measuring front to back on your models. And if your opponent is doing that, it's okay to say something to them.
You never want to go front to back.
So I was playing in a tournament, and I was playing against someone who had a very assault-orientated army. And he's like, "Oh, this is how I move them. I measure front to back." And I'm like, "No, you don't.
I don't.
Not in this game.
Not in this
I guess
game. You don't."
I'm not understanding front to back.
So you measure from the front of the model, right?
Right.
So you measure 6 inches. So this is the front, and then you put the back of the base 6 inches away, so it gets that extra base length.
Oh no.
And so you get an extra inch of movement.
That's
At least.
As this was 6th edition or 7th edition, and it was against Khorne Demonkin.
Right.
And I'm like, no. When he's like, well, it doesn't matter because when I assault, I do this, which removes it. I'm like, cool, but the 3 turns of movement you had before then
kind of
added on.
counteract that, yeah.
And he's like, well, I don't see it. I was like, okay, well, I'm just saying. I was like, I would prefer if you measured front to front or back to back and not in the thing. Again, you're not being an asshole about it.
No, you're actually just asking them to play by the rules.
Could you do this, please?
Right. And especially in a model that has an oblong base or a big base, like a Demon Prince or something like that, those extra 3 inches or so can really make a giant difference. So the next thing you want to do is pay attention to models with a high movement speed and then plan accordingly.
Like Flyers or Mortarion.
Right. So where can they get to? Can they assault you? And then in your instance, try and take out an enemy's speed. So pay attention to those models that move really fast and are a threat so that you can kind of have the board control with impunity. That's what you want to have.
And then nuke the bejesus out of them in round 1.
Absolutely.
If you can.
So, and then your units that move fast, you want to try and keep safe. A lot of times I'll play I might push up my fast units really quickly to get a first turn recon or something like that when I'm playing ITC missions.
Yeah.
And then I might move them back, and then I can jump them forward again. So I can kind of move them out of threat range and then move them back in. I especially like really cheap fast units so that I can do that kind of stuff. So my opponent usually is like, well, that's not much of a threat. I don't give a shit about that. But in reality, it's like, well, you probably should give a shit about that because that's gonna win me the game.
Really wish we had a voicemail where people could call in and give a timestamp of an episode where somebody said something absolutely insane that needed to be grabbed, such as, I like to get a couple cheap, fast things and just get them in there and get them out and get them in and get them out.
And that makes the game sexy, Dave. All right.
No, Primaris make the game sexy.
So the next phase, which I'm just going to kind of ad-lib a little bit, I'm going to talk about the psychic phase.
Yeah.
So the psychic phase is a kind of a cool couple tricks here. So first of all, planning the order in which you're going to do your powers is extremely important. And so you want to try and fake your opponent out if you can. Save your most valuable power until last. And if you're really worried about that power, kind of save it to the middle and cast some inconsequential stuff first to see if you can get your opponent to bite if they're going to try and stop them with Deny the Witch. But otherwise, you want to save that reroll for that good power. The one that's important, the one that's going to break your opponent's back or their killer unit or whatever else, like Doom or Jinx or
The Jump. Smite.
But yeah, there's a lot of head games that go on in that psychic phase because, you're right. I mean, a lot of your opponents are going to know, okay, he's going to go for the jump. So,
right. So I need to stop.
So I need to stop the jump. But then if you're like, okay, first off, I'm going to do this. You're
right.
Oh, that's just as bad. And you're trying to build up the threat level of the stuff you're doing to help it.
I'm going to cast Warpath on my unit of 30 boys that's in assault range.
Yeah.
Oh shit, that's an extra 30 attacks on that unit. That's going to be brutal. Or the other thing that you want to do too is in the movement phase, measure and make sure that your psychers are outside of 24 inches of their psychers. Now, you can do this one of two ways. Either you can bully their psychers and give them the opportunity to dispel you, or you can stay just outside of 24 of them and still cast all your powers with impunity. So that's something to think about as well.
So this kind of goes back to the movement phase of kind of baiting out your enemy, or kind of baiting your enemy into position.
Measuring those threat ranges. Pre-measure. So that's kind of it about the psychic phase. I think people are going to try and stop powers that do damage less. They're going to try and stop powers that buff your units more, because those are the ones that are really force multipliers, and that's going to be a larger benefit overall.
Oh, yeah.
So the next phase I want to talk about is the shooting phase. So the first thing you want to keep in mind in the shooting phase is keep in mind those mission parameters. Like, what are your targets? So what are the things that are going to win your opponent the game? Or alternatively, what are going to win you the game if you remove them, because you're getting either secondary points off of them, like it's like you're getting big game hunter points, or in big guns never tire, you get bonus points for killing heavy support choices, that kind of stuff. So what are you going to do to win the game? Like, what units do you have to remove that are either the biggest threat to you or the biggest threat to you winning the mission?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that since I said that I tend to play more towards the primary of most missions, and for the most part that is, so in ITC you have hold one objective and kill one unit.
Yep.
And then you have hold more or kill more than your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
So
and then the bonus point.
And the bonus point. So you can score up to a total of 5 points just off of the primary per round that you play.
Sure.
Okay.
So you have a potential of 30 total points in the game.
Correct. So as far as shooting goes, you always want to make sure that you start shooting a target and finish it, so that you get that all-important one victory point right there from killing a unit.
Yeah, maybe.
You never want to half leave a unit unless that was your objective from the start.
Like, sometimes you do want to leave a half a unit because you're going to kill it in assault and you want to use it as like a jumping point.
Right, but if you're shooting a
like
unit that you're
leapfrogging
planning
up the
on,
table.
Exactly.
I mean, you have to be, if you're planning on charging a unit that you are going to light up first, you have to already know that you are well within charge range.
Sure.
Otherwise, because a good opponent is going to peel off models from the front, making it a longer and longer and longer charge until it's like, whoop, now you can't charge me. So I tend to shoot units that I have no intention of charging until it's a last resort.
Okay.
So that way I can make sure I get my kill one and hopefully kill more objectives.
Do you play assault armies very often?
No.
Okay. That kind of makes sense from that perspective then, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I usually bring 1 or 2 assault units, but nothing that, I'm not, my usual goal isn't to get in your face and charge you.
Yeah.
Most of my arms. It's to blow you away.
My goal is, in the shooting phase, is to weaken your unit enough that I can charge it, wipe it out, and consolidate forward. So in the game, instead of we'll move on to that later in the assault phase part. Mm-hmm. But kind of that's my goal for shooting. And I think it speaks to really like, what's your army built to do? How are you going to win? Like, asking you that question, because there's different ways that you can approach the shooting phase. Dave, you play pretty static gun lines, or like you play shooting heavy
gun lines, yeah.
Shooting heavy armies. So you don't really have a lot of things that can take out a big thing in close combat. So you're not really worried about kind of whittling down or kind of getting out of there. You're like, okay, I just need to shoot this to death right now.
Yep. That actually stems from how I like to play. Like, my style of play is not to get up close and be in combat with you. I prefer to shoot at you and make you work your way to me. Unless I don't pre-measure, in which case then you're there immediately.
Or you forget about repulsor wash.
Yeah. Wish you had more than that one sound effect. That's really overplayed at this point.
All right. So let's talk about don't like wasting your firepower, right? So some units have multiple guns. So it's important, especially like a unit with a lot of models, a unit with 10 models has 10 guns. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to kill one model, you may not need to shoot all 10 guns at that one model in order to kill it. So being really efficient with your firepower is another thing to keep in mind. However, it's okay to put extra firepower into something that needs to die. If it needs to die, then it's okay to waste shots on it. Like, for instance, there's one model left in a squad. You've got 10 tactical Marines.
And he's got 2 command points.
Sure, right. He could auto pass that.
And is a dick.
But like, you don't want to shoot like 2 Marines at that guy.
No,
you want to shoot like 5 Marines. Or if you don't really have any good targets, like you might be able to do some damage to say like another guard squad or something like that. Dump all the tactical Marine shots in there. Like just make sure that it dies so you get your point. That's super important.
I think a lot of it comes from edition hangover, where 8th is really the first edition where you're able to split fire in your squad between different units. So I think a lot of us are still having kind of that block of remembering that it's actually a
and
thing.
7th where you just shoot everything at one target.
Right, where you have like a devastator, or like if you took a las cannon with your tactical squad, you're like, cool, I'm going to fire one las cannon at this tank, and these bolter guys are going to sit with their thumb up their ass for the rest of the shooting phase.
Right. And now you don't have to do that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Bring it down, brother.
All right. So the next phase is probably the most tactical phase in the entire game. And that's the charge phase.
And we could just skip this.
You're like, it's not important. No, it's move forward.
Dave, it's so important. You have no idea. It's important to know about, for at least the fact that you need to be able to combat what your opponent can do to you in the charge phase.
If he can't get to me, he can't charge me, bitch. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a bad attitude. All right, so this is probably, I think, the most tactical phase in the game, like is the charge phase. So when you make a charge move, only one of your models has to be within an inch of a unit that you charged. All of the rest of your models have to stay an inch away from units you didn't charge, but they can move in whatever direction they want to.
Serpentine.
So you can spread out 30 models into like a huge area of the board. And even if you only contact with 1 or 2, you can potentially get into somebody's lines and tie up their entire army. Like fairly easily.
Which is something I've done, which is hilarious to do.
It's really good.
Wasn't for the guy you were playing against.
A unit of 30 plague bearers, and again, I charged his entire army, and I declared it that way. I'm like, I want to charge your entire army with this one unit. And not every plague bearer got into contact, but every plague bearer, every unit of his army had 1 plague bearer in base to base, or within an inch.
Right.
And then I don't care what orders you want to throw out. I don't care what your plan is. There's not really much you can do.
Like that's going to be almost an entire turn of wasted movement for them, unless they have the fly keyword, in which case they can back out of combat, no problem. So, and the other thing is you can stay an inch away from them and then consolidate into them. And yes, they'll get to swing against you, but if your unit is like has power armor or is a plague bearer, like tough, then it doesn't really matter, especially if it's like a bunch of, Imperial Guardsmen like punching you or whatever, or trying to bayonet you. It's probably not going to do that much damage to you.
Something I've done with plague bearers is charging kind of a lone outpost, kind of Tav squad, which is out width of the greater good range, but I roll high enough that I get close enough that my plague bearers can then consolidate into other units. So I don't have to eat that Overwatch. They don't get to fight back, but they're being slapped at by a fishman, so I'm not really worried about it. But yeah, it's super, like the consolidation part is like one of the most important parts of that phase.
Absolutely. And we'll touch on that during the fight phase too, because that is super important. The other thing you want to do during this phase is remember what if you have stratagems that affect you during this phase. So with the recent FAQ, it disallows people from using stratagems that affect things as if it were the shooting phase. So like they can't use, like if they have a thing that says during the shooting phase, if you use the stratagem, you can like reroll your misses or something like that. People won't be able to do that during the charge phase. However, there are a lot of stratagems like rotate ion shields on a knight that you can use when you're targeted by a shooting weapon. So if you're actually worried about taking damage going in, like somebody's got a Bane Blade that hits on like 4s in Overwatch or something like that, which is something that you can do. You can pop that strat so that you at least get a 4-up invulnerable save.
I did not mute you, Dave. You were too far away from the mic. I heard him say dick off mic, and I look over, and it's just a very sad, confused puppy face that I muted him.
It wasn't any farther away than I am now. That's the thing is.
And so
thank God that profanity filter is finally working.
And so like for demons, for instance, you could use warp flux or warp surge. Sorry, that's what it is, to get +1 to your invulnerable save. So that like before you charge like a really nasty unit like a Tau gunline or something like that, you can go to a 4-up invulnerable save. That being said, try not to charge Tau. Like in general, unless you can avoid Overwatch, like being from like charging through a wall or like minimizing the Overwatch.
Or you have a 2-up invuln save.
Sure, something like
Even then, the sheer amount of dice that they're throwing.
Oh my God, that's so brutal.
Yeah.
So yeah, just be aware of that because that is a giant pain in the ass.
But I believe once
they can only
they've
greater good
once, then they're easy to charge.
Then they
again.
can't Overwatch against anything else. That
Right.
phase.
Yeah.
So if you have like the sacrificial lamb unit that you want to throw in there to kind of eat some of the Overwatch,
Sure.
like I try to make like because I do a lot of assault armies, I try and make like a sacrificial lamb list, or something that's there to eat Overwatch. Like for my Eldar, it was wave serpents. They were there to kind of like slide on in and eat up as much Overwatch as possible.
That's fair.
And kind of having a plan. It goes back to your list creation. Kind of how are you going to win? What's your plan?
Right. No, and that's a good point. That's a good idea. And then you want to think about what you're charging, why you're charging it. Do you want to charge it to kill? Are you just trying to lock it up so it can't shoot you? Are you trying to lock it up so it can't are you trying to lock it up so that it can't shoot you the next turn? Are you just trying to lock it up so it can't move at all? Or so that people can't shoot you? Like those are all different reasons on why you charge and how you position yourself for the charge. So like if you want to kill something that you're charging, you want to surround it. You want to have as many models in base to base as you possibly can, because so you can swamp it with attacks, right? If you want to charge something so that you don't get shot on the next turn, you want to get as few models within an inch as possible, because you don't want to throw attacks and kill a model that you can potentially tri-point. And we'll go over tri-pointing during the combat phase because that's where that typically is going to happen. The other thing you want to do is if you're charging something to not shoot, it doesn't matter how many models you get into it. One is sufficient. If you want to try and lock it up so it can't move away, then you're also going to want to tri-point it. So you may want to throw some models around it, like a Dreadnought or something like that. For instance, this last weekend, or not last weekend, the weekend before, I managed to surround a Telemon Dreadnought so that it couldn't shoot me anymore, which was amazing because that thing fucking sucks and it would blow the shit out of your army. So
That's fair.
Yep, totally fair. The last thing you want to remember during this phase is at the end of the charge phase, your opponent gets heroic intervention. This is such a huge movement for characters. You just want to be aware of it happening. So first of all, if you don't declare the character as a target of your charge, you can't fight against them.
Right.
So I try and charge characters I try and charge any character within 12 just in case they decide to get froggy and they want to get into combat with me. And that often will prevent them from heroically intervening.
I think another important thing about heroic intervention as well is if you don't declare any charges, you can still be heroically intervened against.
Absolutely. So yeah, just be aware of that. Like if there's an enemy unit, an enemy character model within 3, and keep in mind there's also weird heroic interventions, and there's like for instance, Harlequins can spend 1 CP and heroically intervene 6 inches. Mm-hmm. Space Wolves can always heroically intervene 6 inches, which is huge. Knights that get a relic become characters, so they can heroically intervene. So if you fall back out of combat with a knight, make sure that you're and it's a character, make sure that you're more than 3 inches away. Otherwise, that's not even a beer, Dave.
You know, I
just outed you.
Sorry. Never mind. I didn't tell anybody about you not drinking Four Loko like you said you were.
Well, I never said I was drinking Four Loko.
It's a sham. It's characters we play.
It's never once.
It's not the real Danny.
It's not the
this
real.
This is just a character I play on TV. And so there's definitely some weird interactions. The other thing you want to remember about heroic intervention, and this is from a you perspective or for your opponent's perspective, you can heroically intervene as long as there's not a model in base to base with that model. So like if they get within range of your character, even within an inch, you can still heroically intervene as long as you end that 3-inch movement closer to the closest model. So this allows you like a ton of movement.
Hold on. Are you saying that I can heroically intervene towards a character that isn't within range?
No. You're not heroically intervening with your unit. The character's heroically intervening.
Right.
So, like, for instance...
No, what I'm saying is my captain can heroically intervene as long as he's within X distance of his, right?
As long as you're within 3 inches of an enemy unit and you're not in base to base. Because once you're in base to base, you can't move any closer.
Right.
So, if they put a guy within an inch of your shield captain, you can move around the edge to get in combat with like a character that's close to that unit, and then you can also consolidate. So you could like move closer to that model, but move then closer to another model, and then kind of leapfrog that with a consolidation and then a pile-in move. So you can potentially like get like 9 inches of movement or more, depending on what your heroic intervention range is.
It's gross.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like little tricky plays that you can use here and be extremely powerful, as long as you know what to do during that phase. So just keep that in mind. Read the rules for heroic intervention very carefully, because they probably don't
disregard them completely. Done.
Dave's army building skills.
I'm glad that you're trying to get better at this.
In order to
Dave.
heroically intervene my ass, you got to get close enough to not get blown off the board first, bitch.
Jesus Christ.
The best offense is a good tank
You
fence.
fucking got me, dude.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I start 9 inches away from you, so.
Still got to move those 9 inches.
9 inches isn't base to base.
And I'm going to need you to
John.
go front to front or back to back, John. Not back to
Never.
back.
I'll go front to back with you. Don't you worry.
Oh man.
Oh, I'm not.
My front, your back.
Talking about stinging assaults.
That is definitely some kind of assault going on there, I feel like. So the assault phase, like the most important thing about the assault phase, I can't stress this enough, is consolidation and pile-in. You cannot forget these moves. These moves are incredibly tactical. This lets you move your models. So first of all, when you complete a charge move, don't ever, unless you really want to prevent them from moving around, don't put your models in base to base with theirs ever.
Yeah, unless you're happy with what you're going to end up with right off the bat.
Right. So being able to move around in that consolidation distance is a huge part of what makes the assault phase such like an I don't want to say it's like a dance kind of, but like it's such like a intricate like moving phase. It's really important to be accurate with that particular phase of the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that if you're trying to lock them up so you can't be shot if you don't think you're going to kill the unit, you want to try and tri-point their unit. And what that means is you want to have 3 of your models on one of theirs in a triangle pattern so that their base can't move past any of your bases.
Right.
And this isn't the whole squad you're talking about, right? It's just one unit or one model.
One dude.
One of their models, yes. So you want to separate one model from the herd and surround him so that they can't run away from you and you get to fight another round of combat.
Or not get shot at.
Sure. And one thing that you can do, yeah, sure, right, or not get I mean, you don't want them to run away so you don't get shot at.
Right.
And then you also want to finish them during their turn.
Yeah, but if you if you do a move and you attack them, your opponent, if you tricorner hat one dude or whatever it was you called it, and you attack me, then I'm just going to pull that guy off.
What is the last thing you do after you fight?
Tricorner hat. What?
You consolidate in.
Yep. So first you do your pile-in move where you can do that stuff, and then you can consolidate. So if you don't wipe out the entire unit, there's no way they can pull a guy. Even better is when you try not to kill a guy. So one thing that you can do is you
try
can
not to whack a guy.
Yeah, sure. Try not to kill a guy. That's what I said.
Whack a guy.
Yeah.
Off a guy.
I know, Dave, that's a hard thing for you to
Whack off a
understand.
guy.
I mean, you complain that I use the shitty joke button too much, yet here we are.
At least it's not like the other week where Dave's jokes were just like flying over our heads because they were so bad.
Sorry.
The worst part is
I
I
have
got so many messages from people who were like, dude, you were fucking on point. You were hilarious. Those guys were idiots.
whatever.
Yeah.
Dave, the accounts that the messages that you send to yourself
Still
from your
counts.
various different accounts.
Don't worry,
count.
though, the awkward silence button worked really well that day.
So, yeah, Dave, you might be able to remove that model if I kill a model. So what I might do is if I have, say, Gene Stealers, not attack with my Rending Claws and just attack with my close combat weapon that I have on the Gene Stealers, because every model has a close combat weapon. So, and I might only attack with one Gene Stealer. And then I'll pile in, I'll consolidate 3 inches at the end, and that is usually enough movement, making sure that I put all my models within 3 inches of that one model to get you locked into combat without you being able to move. So there's a lot of tricks and stuff like that that you can use to make sure that you're able to lock a model in combat so that you can't be shot at, or your assault troops can't be shot at. Now, it's really difficult with models with large bases to do this kind of stuff, like say your Custodes jet bikes. And if the enemy unit has fly, then it can fly right over you. So you want to pick your targets accordingly. Those kinds of units you just want to kill. I like to shoot flying units if I can.
I mean, it tends to be a little bit harder to kill them, actually. Traditionally, larger base models and or flying models tend to be a little bit harder to kill than your average.
Ooh, I have a Redemptor Dreadnought that wants to argue that fact.
I can argue it all at once. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not true.
It's dead. Can't argue anymore.
Yeah, that's why you bring the Daradio with the 5-up invuln. You're set.
Oh, God, stop it. That model is bad. I don't want to talk about that right now. All right. So, like, obviously, again, like, I can't stress enough making sure that you are paying attention to your consolidate move and your pile and move. Those are your pile and your consolidate, sorry, rather. Those are moves that are extremely important, and they can get you up to 6 inches of movement in the combat phase. So, potentially,
how much is the pile in? Pile in is 3 inches, right?
3.
So, Guy Joe is the closest guy there. He's at 1 inch. Or even base to base, because this is just your first guy and everybody else is trailing off behind him in combat.
Well, no, you never put him in base to base. We talked about that.
No. What I'm saying is so you put the first guy in base to base, but then everybody else 3 inches you can loop around.
But why would you put the first guy in base to base? There's no reason to.
I'm just saying you could.
Well, I mean, you could.
Yes. So because somebody bumped it with a water glass and now it's in base to base, so you got to work around that. So let's go with that.
So then you accuse your opponent of cheating and call the judge.
You won't see it until it gets replayed on Twitch later.
This is some high level plays we're discussing right here.
What I'm saying is, so you're there, right? And you got everybody else right out behind you. Those guys, you move in their 3 inches. You also can move. So you're moving the first guy 3 inches.
No, you're moving the guy 0 inches because he's in base to base contact. You can't move him at all.
God, you just told me no. Okay,
right? Okay, so let's say he's not in.
Sorry,
let's say he's not in base to base contact, Dave. All right, let's make that supposition. Okay,
so he's not in base to base. So you're wanting to move, either wrap him to the left with a couple other guys and bring everybody else from the back around to the right to wrap him up, or to just.
So you want to. So what I would want to do is move him to the opposite side of the model, like around the model, and put him into base to base, because you're going to have to do that in order to effectively try pointing.
So that's not a. I guess people who are setting their models up, no, because if you got your models 2 inches apart, so you got 2 inch unit coherence, so you don't have the room most of the time to move a model in there.
Well, then don't put your models in 2 inch coherence.
The defender. The defender is not. The defender's in 2 inch coherence, so you can't get around and try corner a guy.
Why?
Because
you can be within an inch of the other guys.
You're in close combat.
Okay.
Yep. There's nothing to prevent you from doing that. The only time you can't move within an inch of an enemy model is in the movement phase and the charge phase against a target you did not charge. Otherwise, you're able to consolidate and pile into models that you didn't declare a charge against.
Okay.
Or units, sorry, not just models,
right?
Because you're not charging model to model.
Sorry, I was thinking about my game with John where he charged and couldn't charge because he couldn't go, but he couldn't go between the space. His base was too big to go between the space. That's why he couldn't.
Yeah, it was.
So what you can do is you can declare both units as a charge and then charge through the other unit to get to the other side.
But not if your base doesn't fit.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
that's what I'm.
Yeah,
that's why I was getting confused.
I was too.
That's why I was
too girthy at the bottom. Things I couldn't fit in Dave's the small gap that he left me.
I'll take things no one has ever said about John for 500, Alex.
Well, joke's on you. No one called Alex is here.
That 25 millimeter girth that John has.
I'm at least as big around as a penny. That's all I'm saying.
I'm a swarm base right here.
Oh, that's a 40 millimeter. That's thick. I'm rocking a nice 32 millimeter base going on.
It's 2 millimeters deep, so
it's like a hockey puck.
It's flattened.
We call that the Peterson effect. All right.
So all right. So now that I'm completely derailed by getting confused.
All right. So let's talk about directing attacks.
Right.
So, like I kind of talked about earlier, you don't want to throw your best attacks at
assault phase, Mr. DeVille.
So you don't want to throw your best attacks at a unit you don't want to kill. You want to throw your best attacks at a unit you do want to kill. And sometimes that's going to involve you throwing shitty attacks at a unit to not kill it so that you can kill it during your opponent's turn and be free to move and charge.
So like your Gene Stealer squad very subtly retracting their claws and
look how weak we are. We're not a threat. You should stay and fight us.
Wow, these Gene Stealers are pussies.
Yeah.
Gonna stay here forever.
And then shink.
Bring more people in, Johnson.
Yeah. So something to think about. And then also, like if you're going to direct attacks at a character or something like that too, like just be aware that characters are usually a lot harder to kill than a standard unit.
Wow. I really feel like I've learned a lot today.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gotten good so far. Is there any more tips or tricks that we can go over?
Do you know what I learned really quick about characters that I didn't know before?
Yeah,
That's a technicality that you can pull or have pulled on you. If you hide your character out of sight,
Like a pussy.
to avoid snipers,
Like a pussy.
anything that can see that character can target it, regardless of what other units are or like out of line of sight, because it says it's the closest visible character. You can't target it if it's a visible character.
That's not true.
Is it? No, am I being fooled by the internets again?
Yeah, no.
What have we told you about staying off the internet, John?
So
my porn.
the targeting rule in the general's or in the chapter approved, because they made some changes to that particular rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it used to be that you could put them out. They could be out there in plain sight, just like tap dancing along like fucking Fred Astaire, but there's a rhino behind a building.
Just the way I read it,
Or
like
like three nurglings hiding on the bottom level of a ruins in
Well,
the
the
middle
way-
of the table.
I read it if you have a character behind a wall that you're hiding, if you're an asshole with like an impaler cannon or some weapon that ignores line of sight, you can target that character.
No.
No?
No.
Oh, thank
It has to
Christ.
be the closest.
Thank God you were
Visible
here to get
character.
good today.
No, it
because
has
that
to be
would've
the
been a terrible
closest.
mistake.
It has to be the closest unit to you,
Okay.
or you have to have a rule that lets you ignore that, like snipers or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
else.
Closest. It has to be the closest visible
Now-
unit to you.
Smite can do stuff like that.
Smite is juicy.
It's
You can do
that's
some weird.
telekinesis.
You
Danny.
can do some. Thank you.
Boy,
I'll
but
kill you with some mind bullets.
hey, the secret sauce of the last phase, the unwritten phase, shall we say?
Yeah.
the end of turn phase,
Yeah,
which
so-
most people don't think is of anything.
No.
But
they
it's
just
important for consolidation. So
That-
remember to write down all the points that you get during your turn.
That's when me and Dave go, fuck, that didn't go how we thought it would.
No, 9 times out of 10, it goes exactly how I thought it would.
Oh, I'm a
still go-
positive person. You're a negative person.
I still, however, go, fuck, that went exactly as I thought it would.
John is apparently an optimist.
I am an optimist, yeah.
No idea.
We're going to have a bunch of invulnerable 5-up invul things, and they're all going to survive.
Man, that is so frustrating when that happens. So keep track of the score. And so when I say that, I mean keep track of the overall game score every single turn. And this is something that even I'm trying to work on to make sure that I pay attention to that, because I want to know the score every single turn. Like how much am I ahead? Like what's the differential? Like what do I need to do to win? And I can kind of plan out my last turns so that I make sure that I win all the time. And I have been doing a poor job of this. Like I would say this edition I've gotten very lazy at it.
Like Danny's favorite thing I hear from his table is turn 5. What's the score again? Where we at? What have we got? What have you got?
Don't worry about it, pumpkin britches.
There's like 5 minutes left in the round. You're like, what's my score? What do you score? And like you see the stress start to build up.
So that's something I need to work on, and like make sure that you give yourself all the points that you deserve every single turn. Because,
I do.
Well,
It's 100%. I deserve
which is
them all.
0, yeah.
I give myself 5 gold stars.
Those don't translate into ITC.
I mean, ITC points you get none, but I got a gold
But I
star
got
for effort.
18 gold stars. So
Oh man, I really want to take gold stars to the GT and just give them to people. Like, good,
Oh man,
good
Wow.
effort. Here's a gold star.
wow, that was really good play. Sorry it didn't work out for you. Gold star.
here you go, buddy. Here's a
Yes.
rainbow sticker.
Yes.
Oh, get some scratch and sniff ones too.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all going to get stickers now for Midnight Sun
Awesome.
Ooh.
for sportsmanship.
Welcome to Mom. Just for anti-sportsmanship, because I think if we start giving out gold stars like dicks, then
I think you'll find
award.
at a friendly team tournament, my partner and I gave out people loss memes after we beat them.
I did get one of those.
You did.
I did not.
But I didn't play you guys.
No, I had a spare and you deserve one.
I did.
Yeah. It's the only time I'm handing you a loss right now.
All right. So we're keeping track of our score, and we give ourselves all the points we deserve,
That's right.
which is all
Not
of
the
them.
ones we earned, the ones we deserve.
Right.
Which we would have earned if the dice rolled correctly.
Just need to not roll 17 consecutive ones.
And then
okay.
the final thing that I wanted to go over is planning ahead. So this is not something that I do really.
I
very much.
definitely do not.
Like I almost never plan ahead. I kind of am very reactionary. I occasionally will plan about 1 turn ahead, like based on like movement of my unit to like be where I need to be in order to do something really important. But otherwise, I don't really do that stuff because I don't necessarily think it's the most valuable use of brain power. So
I actually do
Yeah.
try to plan ahead multiple moves out. Like where are my tanks going to be in 2 turns? How can I best maximize so that I can get all of the primary points that I'm looking for? Because I damn sure know I'm not getting any secondaries because I definitely picked the wrong ones except for old school, which I've already scored max on after round 1.
Impossible. Go on.
Because I do it anyway. But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm actually
I deserve
am
Line
actively,
Breaker.
I'm definitely getting
Thank
Line
you,
Breaker. But I do actively plan like during if the opponent goes first, in the very first round, I'm not doing anything about it. But at the end of the first round, when I know their turn is coming up, I'm planning all of my moves and how I'm going to do it for the next two turns.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, I plan for the next turn.
So
what am I going to do this turn?
It is something I do. I think I do it too much because what happens is I can make a pretty good plan, and I'm like, okay, I want to do this, 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 and this. And then invariably, because most of my games I try and go second, invariably what happens is during my opponent's turn, the units that I was going to move and counter and move around get shot off the table. And then I'm just like, well, shit, okay. And that's kind of where I run into issues because I'm like, well, that was my plan. That was the plan to do. Whereas I think, Danny, when you're playing a little fast and loose, you're like, oh, okay, it's my turn. And like kind of doing like a little ocular pat down at the table right there.
I'm like, so what I think is, what do I need to do this turn to score all of the points that I get? So like I'll look at, all right, so how many units do I have to kill to win kill more? How many units how many objectives do I have to take to get score more?
One more than they killed, but that's pretty basic.
It's
math.
X plus 1.
Thank you.
With X being the
that's-
number of units they killed.
Right,
God,
but that's
I
something
thought
that you
were
need to keep
good at
track of.
math.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then, like, how do I score the secondaries that I can score this turn? Again, from an ITC perspective. If you're playing Maelstrom or something like that, but it's the same kind of idea. All right, so which Maelstrom cards can I score this turn?
Right.
Yeah.
So, having heard Danny's seminar, John, what are 2 ways that you are going to try to actively improve so that you can be as good as Danny is?
Well,
so you 2 can go 2 and 4 at the LVO.
oh man, that was a really good joke. That was a solid burn.
Dude, that was a good burn, Dave.
I like
nice
that.
Work.
No, yeah, it does.
Thank you. I mean,
How long were you sitting on that?
since LVO.
As long as the dildo that he takes with him everywhere.
Something that I learned playing Eldar and was kind of reinforced here was movement is 40K. You can't win 40K without moving. And kind of the way you move and where you move and where you maximize your move is really where you have to go, and that's where you win the games. Because, yeah, like you said, the charge phase and the assault phase, those are extra movement phases. Yeah. So, yeah, I have, my plague bearers move 5 inches. But when they advance, that's an extra 6 or up to 6 inches. And when they charge, that's up to an extra 12 inches.
Yep.
And when they consolidate and pile in, that's an extra 6 inches again. So this little 5-inch movement slow unit now has an effective threat range of like a max of like 30 inches.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Which is like insane. And like it's planning to maximize everything. Because I think I said in a past episode that I'm really starting to read individual unit rules now so I can maximize those units, like, because you're paying points for those rules, so you got to maximize what they do for you. And it's the same thing with movement in the game. What can I do with my army that's going to maximize everyone's movement? Because 90% of the points Danny puts down here is based on movement and controlling movement. And it's where I'm most successful playing the game is not only am I controlling how I move, but I'm controlling how my opponent moves. So, like I said, I think my big takeaway from this and kind of a reaffirmation is the importance of controlling movement and moving your stuff there.
Yep, I agree. That's really important.
Also, fuck Space Wolf heroic intervention. But I didn't learn that today. What did you learn, Dave? What are 3 things you learned, asshole, giving me a number?
Yeah, well, you only went with 1, so...
No, I said 2. I said fuck Space Wolf heroic intervention.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't realize...
Yours can be that simple.
I was like, can I use that one too? Fuck Space Wolf intervention.
There's one.
There's one.
All right.
4 more to go.
Yeah. You got to do 5, Dave.
I need to pay better attention to threat ranges. Things that'll help me be better is that understanding some of the more nuanced stratagems and actively making an effort to use them in the game instead of trying to rely on just outplaying my opponent based off of my base units. Sure. That gives me 3?
Yeah, that's 3.
All right. I'd also like to go with fuck Plague Bears.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, okay.
It's pretty fair.
And then, pencils are not as good as pens as far as
I did not learn that
goes.
today.
So that's something
You son of a bitch.
John will stay after class and write out on the blackboard. It'll be fine.
In pencil. I'm going to make you listen.
Oh, God.
I'm going to stick a pencil inside of you.
I mean,
Oh,
wait, which way? Which orifice?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Sort of.
There. In your butt.
Yeah, no, it's straight in the urethra.
Sort of. Hey, so we're gonna take a break. Let us know what you think. Did we miss anything? Did we get everything perfect 100%?
Did we hit it?
Did we
just miss?
Did we just miss? Let us know what you think.
Did we roll like Danny or did we roll like John?
We're going
does that
to
mean?
we're going to be
Well, you hit and John misses.
That's fair. That's fair. That's why I don't shoot. We're going to be back with an epic tale of it's Apocolypse.
Earl Hagen was a legend. In 1960, he whistled his way into Hollywood and into our hearts. Decades later, he made a comeback, lending those lustrous lips in the 1980s to such bands as the Scorpions, Guns N' Roses, and Pat Benatar. A half-century after his humble beginnings, he's at it again. This time without cumbersome musical accompaniment, he'll have you wetting your whistle and whistling along. His new album, Earl Whistles Disney, is sure to be a hit with all generations. Order now and receive a bonus album, Earl Whistles More Shit, a collection of previously unreleased material of Earl's favorite songs through the years. On this bonus album, he demonstrates his newly mastered technique of inward whistling. Order yours today on compact disc or double-length cassette. Also available at fine retailers such as Walgreens, CVS, and participating Sam Goody stores. Earl Whistles Disney. Buy it today.
Welcome back to Mob Rules. Currently, I missed an argument, which I should have recorded, where Danny and Dave were arguing about the pronunciation of a kind of monkey that throws poo.
Well, to be fair, a lot of monkeys throw poo.
Well, I'm going to misspell it. Google's
So-
not going to understand it.
Dave said it was the capsaicin monkey, which is the stuff that makes chili peppers hot, which made me
No,
laugh.
casino monkey, right there. That's what, according to Google, it says. Casino monkey.
Dave, it's capuchin monkey.
But it's not capuchin monkey. That's not how it's said.
Oh, okay.
2 monkeys were paid unequally, except for. Oh wait, that's a good article.
Okay.
Anyway,
Dave,
let's go.
I don't want to talk about your fucking casino monkey anymore.
Bullshit.
Fucking racist.
You're always bet on black. Wow.
Let me
Damn it,
just.
I wish
here.
I hadn't said that.
Yeah.
We're
Good
gonna.
one.
Way to
Dave.
call me racist right before I call for that.
We're gonna turn on my phone Bluetooth here real quick. Make sure it.
Capuchin. Capuchin.
Cap your chin. What?
Capuchin. That's how you pronounce
what
it.
I just fucking said.
Nope, it's wrong.
Yeah.
You fucking find me
Maybe
Wild Kingdom where the guy's saying
capuchin.
Yeah, this
Capuchin.
is
Yeah,
this
that's what
is
I meant.
dictionary.
Okay.
This is dictionary.com. We're gonna get flagged now from
well,
YouTube
only because you
for,
said it was dictionary.com.
for that there. But yeah, Capuchin.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Argument
Anyway,
over.
moving on. Apocalypse.
We got some exciting news.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so we're getting a copy of Apocolypse. The embargo is lifted right now on it, so we can talk about
Yeah.
this awesome game that we're not going to get until after the embargo lifts.
That's not true.
Go Alaska.
It'll show up tomorrow. You know that.
Yeah, it's going to show up here pretty soon. But we're all super hyped for Apocolypse. Before, like, literally, I think we saw the title Apocolypse.
Perfect.
And and we saw the title Apocolypse, and we were incredibly hyped. We didn't care about rules. We didn't care about anything. And then we saw stuff, and they were like, "Oh, you can play it in an evening." We're like, "Oh, that's a pretty cool feature." And
it's much better than the last time I watched you guys play Apocalypse.
So first of all, I love Epic Armageddon. That's like one of my favorite games of all time, and it seems like they've taken rules from Epic and made Apocalypse into like 28 millimeter Epic, and so I am so fucking pumped.
Yes,
I would have been if they'd have brought out movement trays, which were tiny little black squares. Well, like not tiny, but you know what I mean. If they were the black squares,
just like the rectangles.
Yeah, the rectangles,
or
and
the
that was
square
the
with the 5 guys.
Dude,
with the cross.
I would have been like, I'm so hyped right now.
Why didn't they do that? Oh my gosh, that would have been amazing. I mean, it was completely impractical, but
despite Dave.
That would be so cool.
You would have seen me running around, just running down the street half naked, just like excited from like, oh, must have been the tiny
typical Saturday,
typical Sunday morning.
Well, Saturday
the walk
of
shame.
Sunday.
It's like walk of shame home.
So we call that Four Loko of shame home.
But no, everything we're seeing about this makes it look like it's just the Epic rule set in 28 millimeter.
Yeah.
Totally, and that is completely okay. Like we're like, oh yeah, look, like I remember us coming to 2 about it. And they're like, oh yeah, the blast markers, number of blast markers you have in your unit affects your morale. I'm like,
yep.
We're like, huh. They're like, oh, it's going to be alternating activations. And we're like, are you guys releasing Epic? Because it sort of sounds like you're releasing Epic. I mean, I know I said in the community survey I wanted you to release Epic. Selfishly, I didn't want to need an 80-foot table to play it.
Well, you won't. I don't think you will.
But like I said,
65 at most.
It's a lot coming out. It's going to be the biggest 40K release for a while. It's going to have a huge range of things coming up for it. Dave,
you got to take into consideration is that they can't release Epic because at this point there've been so many new models they would have to redo and re-downsize. They've already proven that when they did the Adeptus Titanica stuff, that it took a long time to make because they didn't like the smaller size. The Titans were originally about 3/4 the size that they ended up with.
Sure.
So it didn't work when they first released it and showed it to people. They were like, well, you can't do any detail with this. So they had to make it bigger. So they did the same thing with Epic. They didn't want to have to spend the time and research budget to be able to make more Primaris, only to have the community be like, oh, look, there's another Primaris Lieutenant. Stop releasing Primaris Lieutenants. Sure, he's only 2 millimeters tall, and that's 1 millimeter taller than John's wiener, but still.
He's Primaris, so he would actually be 3 millimeters tall.
Well, yeah.
I like how the Warhammer community is commenting on the size of your dick, John.
I know. I see that. 1 millimeter.
Dude, yeah.
I must come like a fucking shotgun, man. Because that's the only way I have children.
There's no rifling. It's just all blast.
The splatter pattern.
Have you ever seen when you turn the sprinkler on and it's like just like the mist spray? They call John the mister.
Yeah. You can tell I finished when you're like...
All right.
Gross, so but epic. Thank you for the review copy.
We'll have some content up later today where we get to talk more in depth about it, and for because as of right now we've seen all the same stuff you guys have. So
yeah, but
and it's
soon,
just hype train.
Oh man, I am super fucking pumped. So what I'm excited about is seeing all what the faction rules are, because they've been previewing something every day, right?
Right.
But I'm not going to get a Necron preview
ever
of my faction rule. Fuck you.
Maybe you'll
until
get
like the Friday before the actual release. That's when they're slated to show the Necron preview.
Oh really? When are they showing Sisters?
Never.
Yeah, quit your whining. At least you're getting a preview day.
December.
Well, I'm a main codex. Sisters are new. I don't give a shit about Sisters.
Kind of.
With Necrons, they do have the smallest model.
Oh, I thought you said good codex. My bad. I apologize.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, we're super hyped. We're going to do some coverage of it there. I know within our gaming group, there is a lot of people super interested in playing Epic.
So once it releases, and we can kind of share the details of it, we're going to try and pull together something.
We're going to pull together something. I know within our community, we have warlords and phantoms and warhounds.
I'm calling DeVoe. He can't even use his stuff. He's stuck out in Glen Allen or something like that.
Rough.
I'm just going to show up at his house and tell his wife I need to take that stuff. She'll let me, too. That's the thing. She'll be like, yeah, don't bring it back. You can have it.
He's like riding a moose out there or something like that.
Policing people.
Dude, that sounds like a great fucking job.
For a Canadian, maybe.
Yeah, I'm half Canadian.
Is that what you're... How are you?
Yeah.
It's not a...
But yeah, we're super happy. We're gonna film some stuff playing.
Yeah, we won't get to film any games beforehand.
No, but there will be some coming because there's too many people too hyped, and there's too much disposable income in Alaska to not pull out every Lord of War
I wish
in
there
our
was
collection.
some way there wasn't a tournament this weekend, so that Saturday we could just set up and do like an Apocolypse streaming game.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be
Somebody's
cool.
got to go bring his necrons to a tournament.
I gotta
go
practice.
work.
Yeah, some people have to work.
Some people have to work for a living.
Sadly, I'll also be working.
Yeah. But yeah,
I won't.
There'll be stuff coming. Daddy's going to apparently stream a solo game of like Apoc.
You're saying that winning a tournament on RTT at Tier 1 is not work for you?
No,
Fucking
Never.
old-faced.
Hey, when you do
never,
something,
never fucking has been, dude.
when you do something you love, you never work a day in
Roasted.
your life.
Mic drop. Right, there you go.
Yeah,
That's
we're
true, John.
we're excited to share that. Let us know what kind of units you want to see play, what you want to see. I'm excited to see a Hera duel. I'm excited to see how that does.
I'm having a pylon commission. Did I
I have
tell
a
you about
pylon coming in.
that? Hells yes.
I want to see kind of like a wing
How
of
do you
Wraith
commission
Knights.
a Forge World object?
painting.
You're going to order it from Forge World?
No, I'm having somebody paint it for me.
Yes.
Paint it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and so there's like lots of stuff that we're excited to do, and it looks like it's going to be well supported. Pretty much every faction that matters,
At least
Sisters
for the
of
first
Battle.
4 months.
Yeah, it will. It's super cool. We're very, very excited about it, and we'll bring more content coming soon. TM.
Yep.
The end.
Do you like cookies but want something more British? Buy biscuits. Not like those you have for gravy. British biscuits. For dunking in your British tea. Stiff upper lip guaranteed. Biscuits, as recommended by Queen Liz of the Britons.
It's the other day too.
Oh, and we're back.
Oh, hey.
I keep forgetting how short that advert is, and I
We need
always
to-
save it for last. We need to do
get
more. We need to
Gav
do more
to
ads.
record another
Yeah,
one.
seriously.
Yeah.
We need to get Gav to do another one.
We get anyone to do another one.
Anybody who listens can get us in touch with Gab Thorpe again.
Yeah. In
This
fact, anyone
sounds
who
effective.
listens who wants to record an advert for us, send it to us, and we'll play them.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yes.
Hell
Hey, does
yeah.
your local game store want to just for free advertisement on the 63rd best 40K podcast? Record it and send it to
Hey,
us.
man, we're like at least top 25.
All I know is that when we Google the podcast, we're on the first page of Google,
Yes, we are.
and
mean,
that's all that
200
matters.
results of the first page.
And
but it's
also,
so good.
when
Search analytics.
Wait,
Yeah.
Wait. Are we Googling mob rules? Because I would hope
Or
we'd be
Four
the
Loko.
first. Either one.
So if you Google mob rules are really good, Australian metal death band comes up.
No, it's Swedish.
Or Swedish
Yeah.
metal death band comes up. If you Google mob rules podcast, we come up pretty quick. So yeah,
Hell
It's
yeah.
still not number one, though. The Swedish death metal band is above us because they also
they're
have a
very
podcast.
good.
Man, their Facebook posts crack me up, though, when people tag them in it. It's us instead.
Because we grabbed the mob rules name before they did, so we keep on being tagged in Swedish death metal posts,
Which is amazing.
which is amazing.
Ich bin ein mob rules in the pad. It was just like,
Wow.
for
what
one,
the
that's
fuck
German.
was that? Yeah, seriously.
and for
Dave.
two, I've found at least two really good bands from being mistagged. in
oh, yeah?
posts.
dude, I have two actually.
Yeah. So please continue to mistag us and stuff that you think we're going to find interesting.
About bands.
And just to close this off on something hilarious and awful.
You can tag us in anything, especially tag Dave on his personal account.
Ah, damn it.
I will be staying up very late tonight, picking up my wife from the airport who's traveling with our infant son right now. And just to kind of give you an idea of how her day is going, I just got a text message that she had to go. She's in SeaTac, Seattle Airport, so she had to take a tram to go to a different terminal.
Mm-hmm.
The terminal she got to, the elevator was broken.
Oh, no.
So she has a small child in her baggage. There's only one TSA agent there whose walkie had no battery, so she had to exit the airport completely, go back through security to go a different way to get to her terminal.
Oh, you're a dick for not going with her, making me do that by herself.
Oh no, I'm good. Yeah, I don't want to go to Texas in June. That
And
sounds awful.
That is pretty hot.
Yeah, it's hotter than me.
Almost Custodes gold hot down there in Texas.
Oof. But anyway, for Mob Rules, I've been John.
I've been Danny.
And I've been Dave.